A life-saving debt must be repaid. Is that so strange? Li Qiuran replied with a smile. Wang Tang let it go. Arrange the meal, then. Chen Sheng, who knew Li Qiuran well, nodded and went to make the arrangements. Booking a meal via the store phone was simple enough. Brother Yu, are we really going to eat with them? Huzi felt out of his depth with people like Li Qiuran, whose words felt layered with hidden meanings. Her background and aura made him deeply uncomfortable. She wouldn't let us leave otherwise. It's just a meal, not a trap. Don't worry. I bought 2 outfits each for my wife, mother, and sister-in-law. The prices were steep, but the quality was superior. I didn't mind the cost, and Huzi followed suit, buying gifts for his own family. Li Qiuran and Wang Tang tried to help, and when Li Qiuran insisted on paying, I firmly resisted. Li Qiuran insisted on buying clothes for my family, paying for them herself. I realized she was stubborn. If I refused, she would likely show up at my doorstep in the middle of the night to deliver them. She increased the gift to 3 sets each for my wife, sister-in-law, and mother, and included Huzi, ensuring no one was left out. Clothes are done. I've booked a table at Paimanlu. Let's head over. Li Qiuran had recently recovered from illness. She needed new clothes because her original ones were ruined in the mountains, and Chen Sheng's previous choices hadn't suited her. Her friend's visit provided the perfect excuse for a shopping trip. Paimanlu, the city's premier public-private partnership restaurant, had its manager waiting for their arrival. Whether due to Chen Sheng's reservation or his status, the manager was exceptionally deferential. I knew of this place. As a public-private entity, it was constrained by bureaucracy, making it difficult for private owners to make unilateral decisions. Unlike state-run restaurants where managers could easily use resources to curry favor with superiors, public-private managers faced more scrutiny and had less personal incentive to be extravagant. Comrade Chun, please, your private room is ready. You are too kind, Deputy Manager Su. We are just here for a simple meal. Chen Sheng shook hands with him politely before leading the group to the room, while I and Huzi remained silent. Comrade Chun, what would you like to order? It was unusual for a deputy manager to personally attend to guests, even for a high-service establishment. To ease the tension, Chen Sheng joked, I'm just a rough soldier, but I know ladies first. Let our 2 beautiful guests choose. He then added, Thank you for the personal welcome, Manager Su, but don't be so formal next time. He explained to me that Su was the original owner who stayed on as deputy manager because he couldn't bear to just sit at home collecting dividends. While typically public-private partnerships saw state officials take the lead, original owners sometimes retained roles if they were willing to work. Many former business owners kept a low profile to avoid resentment, but in a smaller establishment, staying on was acceptable. Such arrangements were rare, but not unheard of. I see. A pleasure to meet you, I said, shaking hands with Su. After the women ordered, Chen Sheng insisted I and Huzi pick some dishes too. Comrade Su Yu, I'm the host. If you don't order, it looks like I'm being overbearing. I was speechless at the misuse of the idiom. I and Huzi ordered a few dishes, not wanting to argue with Li Qiuran's wealth. The service was prompt, a hallmark of the restaurant's private sector influence compared to state-run eateries. As they ate, Huzi enjoyed the feast, having never experienced such high-quality food. Once they were nearly finished, Manager Su returned, prompting everyone to stand out of respect. Manager Su, is something the matter? Su presented a bottle of matai, saying, Manager Fan heard you were here and sent this. He will come to toast you shortly. After Su left, I asked if Chen Sheng knew him well. Not really. I've just been here as an escort for my grandfather's guests. I understood. The restaurant staff didn't realize Li Qiuran's grandfather's granddaughter was present, or they would have been even more attentive. Anyone visiting the grandfather was a person of significant stature. With its state-owned background, the restaurant staff were well-versed in reading military insignia and status. Soon, Manager Fan arrived to toast them, and Chen Sheng accepted the gesture graciously. I was stunned to see that Manager Fan was the same man who had managed the state-run restaurant in their county. Fan had clearly moved up in the world. He recognized me, though he quickly masked his surprise. Little brother Su, long time no see. You two know each other? I replied, we are old acquaintances from back in the day. Fan played along, toasted everyone, and left. Once outside, Fan felt a cold sweat. He knew Qin Sheng's status and realized that anyone dining with him, especially me, was not to be trifled with. He regretted his past coldness toward me, hoping he hadn't caused offense. His position was precarious. One wrong move could ruin him, and Qin Sheng's circle had the power to end his career. This explained why a manager of a public-private restaurant would go to such lengths to toast them. As they left, Deputy Manager Su ran after them, breathless. "Comrade Su Yu, our manager asked me to give you this as a small token of his appreciation." I opened the package to find premium cigarettes, Zhonghua and Peony brands. These were high-value items, useful for social maneuvering and gift-giving. The total value was nearly 20 yuan, a month's salary for my father. I knew exactly what Fan was trying to do. "I can't accept this. Please, Deputy Manager Su, take these back." Deputy Manager Su, despite being a high-ranking official representing the organization, acted as a mere errand boy for Manager Fan. The restaurant was originally Su's property, now under public-private partnership. He had to defer to the organization's management decisions, losing his personal control over the business. While state integration of resources is necessary for national development and catching up with developed nations, it is understandable why private owners feel aggrieved. To avoid conflict, the state adopted a moderate approach. As long as these former owners don't interfere with management or cause trouble, they are permitted to retain honorary positions. Su's total subservience to Manager Fan was striking, suggesting he was a man who understood how to navigate the new political reality. He was a man who knew when to yield to the times. "I can't sue you." Manager Fan left and gave me strict instructions. "If I mess this up, I'll have no way to answer to him. Please, don't make it difficult for me." Su's earnest, pitiful act showed how effectively Manager Fan had already asserted his authority over the staff. "Fine. Thank Manager Fan for me later." I knew Fan was likely hiding to avoid the awkwardness of the gift exchange, using Su as a buffer to smooth our relationship. Fan's worldly, utilitarian nature wasn't necessarily a flaw. It was simply how the world worked. Fan's willingness to spend his own money to curry favor actually benefited me, allowing me to profit rather than just trading at market rates. In a society driven by connections, fairness is relative. Economic growth requires allowing some to prosper, first to eventually lift everyone up. Wealth gaps drive the division of labor. Someone must manage, while others provide services. Everyone is equal in dignity, regardless of their role. The world is complex, not black and white. Concepts like filial piety only exist because their opposites exist. Life is defined by these nuances. Chun Sheng stepped in to accept the cigarettes on my behalf, ending the standoff. I took them and departed, asking Chun to help me buy a gift for a future visit. Chun Sheng was surprised, questioning the necessity of a follow-up visit after the dinner debt was already settled. Chun felt they weren't in the same social circle, but he respected me for the rescue and was open to friendship. However, he worried that if Li Qiran returned to the countryside, her grandfather would be displeased. "It's different," Li Qiran insisted. "I met him, and it's only right to thank him properly." Chun fell silent. In this era, folk tradition held that if a savior pulled someone back from the brink of death, they were considered hard-fated and could change the victim's destiny. It was believed that a child falling into water or a well indicated a brush with the king of hell. The savior was someone strong enough to intervene. If I was a child of destiny, associating with me might bring good fortune to those around me. This karmic connection meant that by acknowledging the savior, the victim could secure their own fate. Whether true or not, the custom of recognizing a savior as a godparent was a way to honor the dead of life. Regardless of the superstition, a formal, sincere expression of gratitude was the correct social move. "Fine, I'll arrange it." Chen agreed, resigning himself to accompanying her. Meanwhile, I and Huzi arrived in town. I waited outside while Huzi sold our animal pelts to Fifth Master. I had spent almost all my money, leaving only a small amount for pocket change. "Brother Yu, we got 35 yuan. Here is your 15. Most of the pelts were Huzi's, so his insistence on splitting the profit was a generous gesture. I tried to refuse, but Huzi insisted. I took the money and returned home, where Huang Sui greeted me, curious about my bags. "Clothes for you, mom, and sister-in-law. Go try them on." Sui was stunned by the quality and quantity of the gifts. I explained, "I only bought 2 sets." The rest were gifts from the girl I saved at Huangjia Village. I recounted meeting her and Chen Sheng in town, where they insisted on buying clothes for my family and treating them to a meal. City people have too many social tactics. I couldn't refuse without being rude, so I just accepted it. Sui teased me, asking why I hadn't bought anything for my younger sister and Yaya, predicting a headache for me later. I sighed. I could handle my brother, but my younger sister's pestering was a different matter. I'll buy them something else later to keep them quiet. Sui laughed, seeing her own childhood reflected in my helplessness toward my sister. You dare mock me? I playfully lunged at her, and the couple shared a tender moment. The room filled with warmth and affection. That afternoon, I focused on training the young eagles, investing my hunting points into animal taming. Stats: age 19, physique 25, strength 35, speed 25, stamina 30. Space: 3 cubic meters. Skills: fishing 4-3, archery limit break 4-1, tracking 4-9, animal taming 4-5, Krav Maga 4-9, butchery 4-7, rock climbing 4-7, marksmanship 4-8, carpentry 4-5, parkour 4-7. Points: 0. The upgrade to animal taming 4-5 flooded my mind with new expertise, giving me more confidence in my training. I took my rifle, the 3 young eagles, and Heisey into the woods for practical training. I stayed away from the deep mountains, focusing on helping the animals find their roles in the environment. I allowed the animals to attempt the hunt first, only intervening with my rifle if they failed. I wasn't perfect. Blind shots into dense brush were mostly luck, and I missed often when prey escaped into cover. Overall, it was a success. The animals were learning to coordinate, and their successful capture of a rabbit filled me with pride. Training a young eagle is far harder than training Heisey. While Heisey needs to learn to signal, stay quiet, and harass prey too large to tackle, the eagle's aerial nature makes teaching it to signal a slow, complex process. Compared to the eagle, training Heisey is child's play. By dusk, I returned home with 2 hares and 3 pheasants. Let's eat at the old courtyard, I said. You need to deliver the clothes to mother and sister-in-law anyway. I reluctantly agreed, hoping my younger sister wouldn't pester me. My wife assured me she'd be too distracted by the food to bother me. True enough, my sister was a gluttonous, tomboyish girl who lived for food and play. Despite her antics, we shared a genuine bond, which was why I indulged her. At the courtyard, my sister threw a tantrum until I promised her a new dress. I ate quietly, keeping the hares for myself and my wife, while gifting the 3 pheasants to my parents. I wasn't stingy, but I saw no need to give away everything. Third brother, is the job quota settled? His eldest brother, Shenggur, asked. I'll ask when I go to the mountains with Huzi tomorrow, I replied. And have you and your wife decided about the job? I asked. Shenggur nodded. I want the job, but I need to use your bicycle. I can't leave my wife alone at home. I rolled my eyes but agreed. The bike was already rumored to be Shenggur's to help him save face for his marriage. Shenggur's reputation was poor. Without a big item, like a bike, no woman would have married him. I didn't mind. I had money, and the used bike was just a transition piece. Lending it was a small price to pay to help my brother settle down. Shenggur was relieved. His wife, Li Xiuqin, had been worried that if he lived at the factory, they would be separated like a living widowhood. They were newlyweds and couldn't bear the distance. Li Xiuqin felt guilty about constantly relying on her brother-in-law. But Shenggur knew his brother. With the bike, he could commute daily, preserving their marriage. As long as I was around to look after the family, Li Xiuqin felt secure. Plus, Shenggur could drop off Su's father at the town on his way to the county, making the commute efficient for everyone. After dinner, I and my wife returned home. At dawn, Huzi arrived. Without me, Huzi's hunting was a struggle, relying entirely on luck. He didn't even have a hunting dog to help. But with me, they always returned with a full haul. Ready to go, brother you? Huzi asked. Huzi was fully armed, even bringing his 2 sherbao. I took the gear, teasing him for his eagerness. Short on cash. I want a bike and a radio to look good when I find a wife, Huzi admitted. I laughed, teasing him for being too young to marry. In the village, however, 15 or 16 was a common age for marriage. Huzi insisted his father was already arranging a match. I grabbed my rifle and headed into the mountains with Huzi. Where are we going? Huzi asked. I wanted more than just pheasants and hares. I needed bigger game to make real money. Large prey only entered their area if driven out by predators. Dare to check Shirley Slope? I asked. You're crazy, Huzi replied. Shirley Slope was a semi-primitive forest, feared not for tigers or leopards, but for venomous snakes and insects. It was a restricted zone full of hidden dangers. Yet, the animal population there was immense. We'll just stay on the perimeter, I promised. I knew the risks. I'd once killed a lone predator there that had been driven out by a tiger pack. I wouldn't risk Huzi's life. I was there to hunt, not to die. Huzi agreed, realizing the perimeter was a prime spot for game fleeing the deep forest. It was a high-probability area for large prey. Fine, let's go. I need that radio, Huzi said. He hoped to get lucky and find an injured beast. By the time they reached the creek at the perimeter, they had already bagged several small animals. How are we supposed to hunt with all this weight? Huzi asked. They needed to cross the creek, and the heavy load was a hindrance. Hang them in a tree, I said. It was a standard practice. Few people came here, and only leopards could climb high enough to reach the cache. Tigers were too heavy to climb that high. They had 4 or 5 small animals each, plus an 80-pound deer and a rare wild goat. I jumped down from the tree after securing the haul. Light and ready to hunt, I said. Won't the blood attract predators? Huzi worried. Predators had keen noses, especially near the deep forest. Unlikely. Leopards won't come if there are larger predators like tigers nearby, I explained. Leopards were skilled hunters, but notoriously cowardly. They often lost their kills to stronger predators, so they wouldn't risk a confrontation over a hanging cache. I wasn't worried about the leopard. If it dared to approach, I'd drop it with a single rifle shot upon my return. Stay behind that slope and cover me. Don't wander off. If we get a good catch, I'll make sure you're rewarded. Huzi waved me off, insisting that providing cover was easy and he didn't need a share of the spoils. Just do as I say and get over there. The pair hid in the grass on a hillside. Nearby, a pheasant, its wing pierced by an arrow and its legs staked to the ground, struggled and bled. While Huzi sensed nothing, I could smell the blood from dozens of meters away, knowing predators would be drawn to it. I chewed on a blade of grass, waiting idly alongside a similarly composed Huzi. I avoided entering Shirley Slope itself, fearing the hidden dangers like venomous snakes and scorpions that even I couldn't easily navigate. Without thermal vision or X-ray sight, I couldn't spot threats lurking in the brush. By waiting on the periphery, I significantly reduced my own risk. Coo-coo. I mimicked a bird call. Huzi immediately went prone, chambered his rifle, and scanned the surroundings. The call was my prearranged signal for danger. I didn't know what was coming, but I could smell a large predator approaching. The pheasant struggled frantically, sensing the encroaching threat but unable to escape its tether. A massive creature emerged, causing my heart to skip a beat. It was an adult black bear, standing taller than a man and weighing at least 600 pounds. Such a beast wouldn't die from a single shot unless hit in a vital spot. Its hide was tough enough to deflect pistol rounds. Only a high-powered rifle could penetrate it. Even a headshot was risky. Only a direct strike through the eye into the brain would guarantee an instant kill. I waited, focusing. I didn't want to shoot yet. I preferred the bear to come closer so I wouldn't have to haul it out of the dangerous Shirley Slope. Getting bitten by something venomous while retrieving the kill would be a disaster. Huzi saw the bear too, but he didn't dare fire, fearing a non-lethal hit would trigger a deadly charge. I could climb a tree to escape, but Huzi couldn't outrun the bear. Huzi knew his limits. Hitting swans at 50 meters was one thing, but facing a bear was entirely different. Predators like bears and tigers often become more aggressive when wounded. The old saying, first the boar, second the bear, third the tiger, reminded them how dangerous these forest kings were. I signaled Huzi with an okay gesture to stay calm and hold his fire. Huzi, keeping his head down, signaled back that he understood. The bear, preferring live prey, finally moved toward the pheasant. I aimed my rifle at the bear's eye, calculating the angle needed for the bullet to penetrate the brain. Asterisk bang. Bang. Asterisk one shot hit the eye, and the second went into the bear's mouth as it roared. Don't move, it's not dead yet. I hadn't received the system notification for points, meaning the bear was still alive. Huzi crawled over. Cover me, I said, approaching the beast with my rifle ready. As I reached the bear, The system confirmed the kill. Stats: Constitution 25, Strength 35, Speed 25, Stamina 30. Inventory: 3 cubic meters of space. Skills: Fishing 4-3, Archery, Break Limit 4-1, Tracking 4-9, Animal Taming 4-5, Krav Maga 4-9, Butchery 4-7, Rock Climbing 4-7, Marksmanship 4-8, Carpentry 4-5, Parkour 4-7. Skill points: 58. Including other small game, I had earned 58 points total. The bear alone accounted for over 20 points, a bountiful harvest. I hoisted the bear and pulled out a skinning knife. I wasn't after the hide, but the bear bile, a highly valuable commodity. I expertly opened the carcass and extracted the bile sac. It glowed with a golden hue, a premium gold bile. Huzi was thrilled. I asked, "This is a fine specimen. I'll handle it, all right." I felt it was only fair to ask, given they were hunting together. "Don't be silly, you killed it." I have no objections. While hunting bears was technically restricted, enforcement in the 70s was lax, though it remained a protected species. Laws existed, but they were rarely enforced, leading many hunters to kill without consequence. Let's pack up and head back to town to sell the catch this afternoon. Bear meat was a rare delicacy, and with future protection laws looming, it was highly sought after. I pretended to put the bile in my pocket, actually stashing it in my space. They gathered the remains and quietly returned to the creek. "Brother, you look." Huzi pointed to their pile of game. It had been disturbed. "Damn, we've been robbed." A leopard crouched on a tree branch 3 meters up, staring at them, ready to bolt. Heh, a thieving leopard, trying to steal from me. Leopards might be cowardly toward other predators, but they didn't necessarily fear humans. It had likely never seen a human before, and was wary, but not yet fleeing. "Huzi, it's yours." I set the bear down and raised my rifle, ready to provide backup if Huzi missed. I wanted Huzi to have the chance to take a shot, especially since I'd already secured the bear. Since Huzi spotted the leopard first, it was only right he took the lead. "I've been itching for this. Watch me," Huzi grinned. The leopard hissed, attempting to intimidate the intruders. The leopard prepared to bolt, ready to abandon its prey if threatened or circle back for a sneak attack if the intruders seemed weak. Bang! Huzi's shot struck true, and the leopard tumbled from the tree. I was impressed. Huzi's marksmanship had improved. I had maintained my composure perfectly at 50 meters. Many veteran hunters struggle with adrenaline when facing large predators, but Huzi remained steady, though he knew I was backing him up. Huzi's confidence stemmed from knowing I would provide cover if he missed. He had clearly observed my readiness to act. I no longer obsessed over every point, having moved past the stage of needing to snatch every kill for myself. They had an agreement. Kills belonged to the shooter. I intended to compensate Huzi fairly for his help, keeping my word. Since Huzi spotted the leopard and fired first, the kill was rightfully his. Stealing a kill would ruin their partnership. I valued the principle of the matter. "Good shot. Let's go check it out." The 150-pound adult leopard had been eating my roe deer. Leopards often eat in trees to protect their food from scavengers. However, their weight limits how high they can climb, making them vulnerable to tigers. A leopard will always surrender its meal to a tiger. "It ate your prey, UG. I'll give you extra from the sale to make up for it." "Don't be ridiculous. It's just half a deer. You killed the leopard, keep the profit." Huzi insisted that if I wouldn't take the money, he would forfeit his share of the bear. Huzi was clearly trying to avoid feeling like a burden, as he knew he benefited greatly from hunting with me. I realized Huzi felt indebted, recognizing that hunting with me was vastly more profitable than going solo. Huzi didn't want to question my uncanny luck or skill, but he refused to accept scout fees on top of the advantages he already gained. Their friendship made it awkward to be too blunt, leading to this circular argument. "Fine, have it your way." I accepted. I wasn't a charity, but I valued my friend over minor profits. "Great. Can you skin the leopard for me later?" Huzi knew my skinning skills were unmatched in the region. Between us, no need for thanks. "Leave it to me." They gathered their prey. I kept the partially eaten deer to feed my dog, Heisey. "That's at least 900 pounds, UG. Can you carry that?" I flexed my muscles, showing off my physique. "See this? Can I?" Remove the kint. Huzi carried about 200 pounds, which was manageable on the path they had cleared. I braced myself, grit my teeth, and hoisted the massive load. I handed my rifle and bowed to Huzi, as I had no hands left. Both men struggled through the uneven forest floor, balancing their heavy burdens. They walked and rested intermittently. At this rate, we won't reach the village until 2. This delay meant they might not return from the city until dark. Huzi, go ahead, borrow a donkey cart, and meet me at the slope. I'll move the prey myself. How will you move it all? Huzi was confused by the logistics of moving over 1,000 pounds of game. I'll carry it in stages, move 50 meters, drop it, come back for the rest. Are you sure you can handle that alone? Huzi knew the distance was too great for such a method to be efficient. I intended to use my space to bypass the physical labor, though I couldn't let Huzi see. Stop worrying. Go get the cart. Huzi relented and left. Huzi planned to return with help if I wasn't at the slope. He knew the bear was valuable and decided to bring Su Xiaobin to watch the cart. Take your rifle, just in case. Once Huzi left, I sighed and stored all the prey into my space. I cleared the area, my space nearly full. I strolled back, taking my time to avoid arriving too early. I shot a few rabbits and a jackal along the way, picking them up quickly. When I reached the slope, I unloaded the game before Huzi arrived. I smoked under a tree until Huzi appeared. Su Xiaobin was with him. You're fast, Yuji. I retorted, stop talking and help load. The three of them loaded the cart, and Huzi sent Xiaobin back. By the way, Yuji, Xiaobin said Chunsheng and Li Qiuran are at your place. Want to head back? I was momentarily stunned but immediately shook my head. Returning was out of the question. Li Qiuran wasn't a monster, and Huang Sui was capable enough to handle her. Despite her rural background, her articulate speech suggested she was well-read, putting me at ease. Enough talk, let's go. If we're late, we'll be traveling in the dark. The two men set off on a donkey cart. Though the 1,000-pound load was heavy, Huzi whipped the donkey, and it surged forward with surprising speed. I insisted on selling in the city rather than the county town. To avoid a night journey, they had to push the animal hard. The poor donkey panted heavily, likely cursing its masters for their relentless pace. Other brigades treated their livestock like treasures, but these two were mercilessly whipping its rear. The cart moved significantly faster than an ox cart, though it couldn't match a horse. At a pace rivaling a bicycle, the exhausted donkey finally hauled them into the city. Let's head to Pymanlu first. I chose Pymanlu because I had existing connections with Manager Fan and Deputy Manager Su. I didn't care about social face. My only goal was a high price. Manager Fan had previously tried to mend relations, providing me with the perfect leverage to ensure the deal went through. The staff recognized me immediately, recalling how Deputy Manager Su had personally entertained me and gifted me cigarettes. Oh, Comrade Suyu, what a rare guest. Are you here to grace us with your business? Manager Su knew I was a hunter but suspected I had ties to Qinsheng, making me someone worth maintaining a polite distance with. Su didn't want to offend me, but he wasn't about to grovel either. He chose to remain cautious and professional. He greeted me with a smile, keeping things polite while trying to gauge how a mere hunter could be connected to someone like Qinsheng. Qinsheng's status as a high-ranking guard was no secret to those in the know. Haha, Brother Su, you're too kind. I've brought some excellent goods. Shall we step outside to take a look? I gestured outside. Su followed, only to be confronted with a cart full of game meat. Though he had heard of my trade, the sheer volume of the haul surprised him. Su kept his distance, citing strict procurement channels and food safety concerns regarding the high-profile guests they served. I realized Su assumed I was just another peddler looking for a quick, overpriced sale. What a shame. I just hunted this black bear this morning. The blood is still fresh. I'll take it to another restaurant then. Manager Liu in the West District specifically asked for my stock, but I thought of you first. No matter, I'll head there now. As I prepared to leave, the mention of the bear caught Su's attention. Wait, did you say a black bear? Su looked at the cart and saw the massive, coveted bear paws. Wait, don't go yet. Su felt foolish for his hasty dismissal and regretted not looking closer before speaking. I feigned confusion, acting as if I didn't understand the sudden change in attitude. Su, a seasoned businessman, knew I was playing him, but he had no choice but to play along. He had to swallow his pride to secure the deal. Haha, Brother Su, don't be so hasty. I hadn't finished my sentence. You're a friend of Manager Fan and an acquaintance of mine. How could I treat you like a stranger? Helping you is worth any scolding I might get. I value loyalty. Business has its ups and downs, but having friends is what matters. Since you thought of me first, I can't let you leave. Born before the founding of the nation, Sue operated with a mix of old-school street smarts and the belief that connections were everything. I inwardly scoffed at Sue's shamelessness, recognizing that such thick-skinned persistence was exactly what it took to succeed in business. I couldn't possibly let you get in trouble with Manager Fan on my account. You're an elder. I'd feel terrible if you were scolded. It would be a blow to your reputation, and I just couldn't bear that. Physique watched in silence as the two men engaged in a masterclass of psychological maneuvering. While not essential, the black bear was a rare, high-value ingredient that could serve as a signature dish. Unlike other game, bear meat, especially the paws, was universally recognized as a delicacy. Being purely wild, it carried an aura of exclusivity that would draw in wealthy patrons. It was a matter of prestige. Having such a rare item would solidify Pyamanlu's reputation. It would set them apart from every other restaurant in the city for months to come. Seeing the opening, I decided to stop pushing, knowing I had already won the negotiation. Brother Sue, rest assured, if the meat is good, I'll give you a price that will satisfy you. I press my advantage, but I have other game too. If you only take the bear, I'll have to haul the rest away. Sue cursed internally, finding me to be an incredibly difficult negotiator. Their restaurant didn't typically need large quantities of other game, as they had their own signature menu. That was why Sue hadn't been interested initially. You can't replace a signature dish with wolf meat. But for the sake of the bear, he was willing to gamble. Don't worry, I'll take a look at the rest. We can host a wild game feast. If the quality is there, I'll take it all. Haha, wonderful. I knew I could count on you. I wouldn't find a better price anywhere else in the city. Sue gritted his teeth, realizing I had effectively cornered him into a full purchase. I noted the leopard. While its meat isn't a delicacy, its rarity makes it a perfect, high-priced gimmick for a one-time sale. Other game like wild goats, pheasants, rabbits, and jackals were plentiful and easy to offload. I'll take it all. Everything? Then let's be clear. I'm selling the bear and leopard meat. If you want the hides, that's a separate price. If you agree, I'll skin them outside. Friends are friends, but business is business, right, Brother Sue? Sue cursed silently, feeling completely outmaneuvered by my terms. Once agreed, I used my butchery skill to process the carcasses. The bear hide was too valuable to sell as mere meat. While I worked, Deputy Manager Sue slipped away, likely to report to Manager Fan. Soon, the portly Manager Fan arrived, hurrying over to meet them. Brother Sue, you should have told me you were coming. I'm sorry I couldn't host you properly last time. We must make up for it today. I shook hands with the overly enthusiastic Fan, playing along with the facade of a close friendship. Nonsense, Brother Fan, it's my honor. Let's skip the formalities. I need to finish this work first. I returned to skinning the bear while chatting with Fan. Fan noted that while the bear hide had no culinary use, it served as proof of authenticity to prevent customers from suspecting the meat was just pork. I won't let you lose out. I'll pay market price for both hides. How about that? Fan viewed the hides as one-time marketing props, essential for establishing the restaurant's credibility. I'm happy to sell to you. Whatever you say goes. My expert skinning technique impressed both managers, who watched in admiration. Get someone to weigh the bear. I left the bear paw skins intact, as I wasn't interested in performing extra labor for free. The bear was gutted and placed on the scale. Fan set the tone. Brother, this isn't a massive city. I can only sell a dish of bear meat for 20 yuan. Any higher, and people won't dare eat it. He explained that in the current climate, flaunting wealth or indulging in capitalist luxury was risky, so high prices were a deterrent. I can offer 8 yuan per caddy. I'm taking a risk here, so I need some margin for price fluctuations. Fan referenced the famous Moscow restaurant in Beijing, where the elite dined with silver cutlery, often stolen by patrons. Even there, a modest meal cost 7 or 8 yuan, while a proper banquet could run 20 or more. Very few people could afford to spend months of wages on a single meal. Given the limited spending power, 8 yuan per caddy was a fair price that allowed Fan a reasonable profit margin. Like high-end restaurants today, the price reflected the environment as much as the food. Haha, I wouldn't dream of making things difficult for you, brother Fan. The bear weighed 600 caddies total. At 8 yuan per caddy, the payout was 4,800 yuan, including the organs. These other game animals are a mess to weigh individually. How about a flat rate of 8 mao per caddy? I agreed. While some animals were worth less, the flat rate averaged out well for the mixed lot. Agreed. The 300 caddies of game fetched 240 yuan, bringing the total for the bear, organs, and hides to a flat 5,000 yuan. The bear hide was valued at nearly 200 yuan, a standard market rate for such an item. Fan preferred buying the hides outright rather than asking to borrow them, which would have been awkward. I knew I could potentially squeeze out more elsewhere, but the effort wasn't worth it. 8 yuan per caddy was already a premium price. I'd be lucky to get 5 yuan elsewhere. Fan hadn't forced me to separate the bones or charge differently for the meat, so the deal was more than fair. The total is 5,240 yuan. Let's round it to 5,250. I suspected that 250, a slang insult, was intentional, but I took the money with a smile anyway. Next was Huzi's haul. 200 plus caddies, including a 150 caddy leopard and various small game. Fan offered a fair price for the leopard hide, which he could keep as a collector's item. The leopard hide sold for 350 yuan, while the meat went for 3 yuan per caddy. Leopard meat is sour and not particularly tasty, so the price was kept low to avoid public backlash. The total for Huzi was 800 yuan, with the small game calculated at 8 mao per caddy. While the small game price was low, the generous valuation of the leopard hide balanced the deal. Unlike the leopard hide, a bear head wouldn't pass as a collector's item in the 70s without raising suspicion. I realized that without my space, selling these items for higher prices would be legally risky. Hee. I knew I wouldn't lose out with you, brother you. Huzi was thrilled with his 850 yuan, a fortune that could last for years. Put it away, don't count it on the street. I warned him to be cautious. We had to travel through rural roads, and drawing attention was dangerous. Petty criminals were common, and in this era, they were nearly impossible to track down. They left the restaurant, declining Fan's invitation to stay for a meal. By buying everything at a high price, Fan had secured a business relationship based on mutual profit, which was the strongest bond in their world. Mutual benefit is the only reliable foundation for any relationship. Cooperation thrives on shared interests, while separation leaves both sides empty-handed. Wait, brother you, where are we going? I thought we were heading back. I rolled my eyes. Back? Not yet. I need to visit the steel mill. You stay here and watch the donkey cart. I'll go in alone. If Zheng Yuegua knew I'd arrived by donkey cart, he'd immediately guess I was selling game meat. If the meat wasn't offered to him, it would be awkward. Zheng Yuegua was eager to maintain a good relationship with me, as the vice factory manager only recruited him because of my game meat supply. The job quota wasn't finalized yet. If Zheng lost the supply source now, he'd panic. I needed to wait until Zheng had the money and the transfer was set in stone before I could safely stop supplying him. At this critical juncture, I couldn't risk the vice factory manager pulling the quota. Huzi nodded, and we drove the cart to the destination. There's a tree by the wall blocking the view of the gate. Rest there and watch the cart. I walked toward the steel mill. The security guard on duty recognized me as an acquaintance of the chef, old woman Wu, and the procurement officer, Zheng Yuegua. Little comrade, you're back? Empty-handed this time. No game meat. Even the guard knew my business. Selling mountain goods was rare these days, as most people relied on commune work points to survive rather than hunting. Only I, with my space, found hunting more profitable than farming in these times of scarcity. Just passing by. I need to see Zheng Yuegua. Could you notify him? Despite the era's limitations, people were generally sincere and grounded, though malice existed too. Good and bad people exist in every age. Morality binds the honorable, but only law restrains the wicked. Sure, wait here. I'll go tell him. The guard entered the gatehouse, relayed the message, and went to find Zheng Yuegua. Telephones were reserved for emergencies. Routine notifications were handled by messengers. Soon, Zheng Yuegua came running, panting. Sorry for the wait, brother. I was tied up. Let me treat you to a meal later to make up for it. I had waited 10 minutes. I wasn't sure if Zheng was genuinely busy or just playing the role of a hospitable friend. It didn't matter. I was here for business, not social pleasantries. No worries, Brother Zheng. You're a busy man. A few minutes is nothing. Haha, I knew you weren't petty. You said you were passing by? What's the rush? I paused, wondering if Zheng was playing dumb. Zheng realized his mistake, slapped his forehead, and apologized. My apologies. I've been so busy with my transfer paperwork that I forgot. You're here for the introduction letter, right? Look at me, so scatterbrained. I should have delivered it to your home. I saw through the flattery. I knew Zheng was only being this accommodating because I was currently valuable to his career. No trouble at all. Shall we find a spot to talk? Zheng nodded and led me to a small grove nearby. My paperwork is nearly done. If you need it, I can go get the introduction letter from the vice factory manager now. This was a veiled request for the money. Without the letter, the transfer, and the payment wouldn't happen. Zheng needed to ensure the money was coming, or he'd lose interest in the arrangement. I understood the subtext perfectly. Let's get it done now. I don't want any complications. I handed over 1,000 yuan. Brother Zheng, I'm young and don't know the rules. My elders insisted on paying half now and the rest upon successful hiring. I told them I trusted you, but they insisted on following protocol. I hope you understand. I wasn't a fool. I kept half the payment back as insurance. Of course, brother. Your elders are right. Rules are rules. I'll go get that letter for you right now. Zheng initially feigned refusal, but I insisted. Zheng took the money, having intended to get half up front anyway. I waited by the willow tree, smoking. About 15 minutes later, Zheng returned. Done. Here is the introduction letter. Bring the person over next time, and I'll personally escort them to the personnel department. The branch factory is near your town. Do you know the way, or should I show you? I had already researched the location. I didn't need a guide. No need, I've been there. I'll bring the person on the 1st of next month. Thanks for your help, Brother Zheng. It's no trouble at all. Just bring them over then. Let me walk you out. Don't be a stranger. I declined. I didn't want to explain my presence at the gate. One lie often requires 10 more to cover it. Brother Zheng, you're too kind. If you walk me out, people might think you're slacking off. It'll look bad for you. Please, stay here. I successfully persuaded him to stay and left alone. I rounded the corner to find Huzi lying in the cart under the tree, chewing on a blade of grass and humming. Stop singing. Let's turn around and go. It'll be dark soon. Between the time saved by my space and the time lost chatting with Deputy Manager Su and the others, we would barely make it home by nightfall. Without my space, we would still be in the city haggling. I had saved nearly 2 hours in total. No rush, brother you. We've got nowhere to be. How did it go? Huzi knew the situation, so I didn't hide anything. It's settled. We just need to bring the person over at the start of next month. I produced the introduction letter from my space. Huzi took it. Just a piece of paper, and it costs 500 yuan. Incredible. I took the letter, smiling. This is a permanent position with a planned grain ration. It's a foothold in the county town, worth far more than 500 yuan. You wouldn't understand the hidden benefits. I kept the true value of the factory-allocated housing to myself. The two chatted until we reached Sanshuiwan just before dark. Brother you, I'll return the donkey cart to the village chief. You should head home. Chun Sheng and Li Qiuran might still be there. Huzi left, satisfied with his 850 yuan earnings. He didn't envy my 5,250 yuan. He knew his place and was grateful for the opportunity. Greed would only ruin their brotherhood. He wasn't foolish enough to jeopardize his own gains. Watching Huzi leave, I reflected on our past life. Huzi had remained a loyal brother for years, which was why I cared for him so deeply now. Time often erodes such childhood bonds. In my previous life, I hadn't valued Huzi enough. It was only after hitting rock bottom that I realized what I had lost. This time, I treated Huzi like a brother. I didn't care if others thought me foolish. I was determined to change and rectify my past regrets. Shaking off these thoughts, I strode toward my home. You're back? Look who's here. Inside, I found Huang Sui sitting with a young girl in braids, Li Qiuran. I had already guessed they were there by the bicycles parked outside. The room held 4 people, Li Qiuran, Chun Sheng, Huang Sui, and my sister-in-law, Li Xiuqin. Huang Sui had invited Li Xiuqin to avoid gossip, as a new bride being alone with a man like Chun Sheng would surely invite rumors. Li Xiuqin was the perfect shield. Her husband, Sheng Gur, was not someone to be trifled with. Though Sheng Guer rarely fought anymore, his reputation remained formidable. Huang Sui also did this to put me at ease, knowing how possessive I was regarding her. With Li Xiuqin present, no one in the village would dare spread malicious gossip. I'm back. Chen Sheng, Li Qiuran, what brings you here? I feigned ignorance to avoid Li Qiuran's wrath for intentionally dodging her. We're here to thank you for saving my life. Chen and I have been waiting a long time. Are you always this busy? Li Qiuran asked directly. Li Qiuran voiced her curiosity openly. I laughed it off. I had business today. Don't just stand there, sit. Sui, go help your sister-in-law cook. Let's have our guests stay for dinner. Li Qiuran rolled her eyes, disappointed I wasn't offering lodging. I felt helpless. There was no appropriate sleeping arrangement for them. I couldn't force them to stay at the old courtyard, so I urged the women to start cooking. Li Qiuran wasn't afraid of the dark, especially with Chen Sheng, a former guard captain armed with a pistol, protecting her. However, with the women leaving for the kitchen, she felt awkward and followed them, leaving me and Chen Sheng alone. The two men fell into an awkward silence, lacking any common ground to discuss. I broke the tension by mentioning my business. Sorry for the delay. I was busy securing 4 factory spots for my family. Here are the introduction letters. I apologize for keeping you waiting. I placed the introduction letter on the table. The official seal confirmed its authenticity. The day had been agonizing for Chen Sheng, trapped between 3 women. He only stayed to ensure Li Qiuran's safety. With the women out, the 2 men were left in awkward silence until I produced the letter, providing a much-needed distraction. Planning to send your brother-in-law, and brother-in-law-to-be to the steel mill? Why aren't you going yourself? I struggled to focus on the food. With my new wife and sister-in-law both cooking, guessing wrong would be disastrously awkward. Guests first, Chen Sheng. You go ahead. I couldn't refuse. Huang Sui was watching me expectantly, waiting for me to prove I knew her cooking. I knew her well enough to realize she wanted me to participate and, more importantly, to succeed. Internally cursing the boring game, I signaled Chen Sheng to start. For Chen Sheng, the stakes were lower, but I recalled a cautionary tale of a groom who guessed his bride's touch wrong and faced a ruined wedding night. Fine, I'll test the waters. But you have to reveal the answers after each guess so we can verify. I silently praised Chen Sheng for using a process of elimination to narrow down the odds. This spicy chicken? I guess sister-in-law made it. Chen Sheng played it safe, guessing Li Qiuran would invite trouble, and guessing Huang Sui would be socially tone-deaf. He avoided the latter not out of jealousy, but to avoid being accused of colluding with me. He couldn't guess Huang Sui. That was my wife, and the look in her eyes made it clear she was waiting for her husband. Wow, impressive. You're right. They cheered. Li Xiuqin was the easiest to identify. She worked harder than the others, perhaps feeling inferior to the city-bred Li Qiuran or indebted to me for her husband's job. Like a rural visitor in a city home, she overcompensated with chores to avoid being looked down upon. Feeling she owed my family, Li Xiuqin had prepared half the dishes on the table. She watched the others with a smile, content in her role as the eldest sister-in-law, respected by all. All right, you got one right. Now it's your turn. I was annoyed by the game, but had to play along to appease the guest. I reached for the braised eggplant, a dish I knew Huang Sui had made before. I didn't commit immediately, instead feigning a move toward the dish, while watching Huang Sui's reaction to gauge if I was right. Thanks to my eagle eye, I caught a subtle shift in her expression. I quickly pivoted to a different dish, but Li Qiuran immediately noticed my hesitation. No way. You're cheating. You were watching Sui's face. That doesn't count. Enough guessing. It's getting late. Finish up and head home before your families worry. Chen Sheng agreed immediately. They decided to stop. The world was simply too unkind to men. After finishing the meal, I, Huang Sui, and Li Xiuqin saw Chen Sheng and Li Qiuran off. The couple rode away, and the others returned inside. I wasn't failing to guess. There were just too many dishes to distinguish, I muttered. Huang Sui giggled, and I joined in. Silly. Why are you explaining so seriously? I'm a common girl, not delicate. Li Qiuran was excited, so we just played along to save face. Don't take it to heart. Sigh. I agreed with a grin. Huang Sui rolled her eyes and said, Clean up the dishes you cooked and put them in the kitchen for tomorrow. I'll handle the rest. I realized the trap. I didn't know which dishes I had actually cooked. She was still making me guess. Oh, I forgot. I need to take the introduction letter to Shungur at the old courtyard. You clean up. I'm heading out. I bolted out the door toward the old courtyard. Women are terrifying, I thought. They act indifferent, but are always digging pits. I'll deal with her tonight. I hummed a tune on my way, while Huang Sui stood stunned, finally realizing I had no idea which dishes were mine. She burst into laughter, realizing her slip of the tongue had backfired. At the old courtyard, I gave the introduction letter to Shungur. You start next month. You'll be working with my brother-in-law and his brothers. Keep your temper in check. I don't want to be caught in the middle of family feuds. I knew Shungur wasn't one to take insults, and workplace conflicts would only make life harder. Don't worry. I'm your brother. Besides, I can't beat your brothers-in-law anyway. I chuckled. Huang Shan and Huang Hai were indeed formidable men. I felt reassured, knowing Shungur had become much more low-key lately. All right, go discuss it with your wife. I left, planning to assert my authority at home later. The next morning, I met Huzi outside. Brother you, I'm going on a blind date and can't head into the forest. Take my two-shire bow. I don't know how to use it anyway. I accepted the bow and quiver. A blind date. Where is she from? Sanshuiwan Village. Not far. I'll be back by afternoon. At 18, it was normal for Huzi to seek a partner. I patted his shoulder, wishing him luck. I recalled Huzi's past life, where he was constantly swindled by women. Without my guidance, Huzi had struggled, his sincerity wasted on the wrong people. In the 70s, marriage was difficult for those with poor class status. Some resorted to bride swapping to continue their lineage because no one wanted to marry into a family facing political persecution. With homes raided and families forced into hard labor, swapping became a desperate survival strategy. Others were simply too poor to afford a bride, as even basic food was scarce. Borrowing grain or foraging for wild vegetables and tree bark was common. My village was better off due to a nearby river, ensuring irrigation. Other villages often fought violently over water rights. Huzi looked happy, oblivious to the hardships. I'm off to town with my dad to buy new clothes for the meeting. I nodded and returned to my home. Why are you back? Wasn't Huzi here? Huang Sui asked. She had seen Huzi lingering earlier and misunderstood his intent. He's going on a date and gave me his bow. I'll head out later. Hunting was Huzi's livelihood, but I treated it as a way to improve my life, not a burden. Having satisfied my basic needs, I understood that life was about more than just survival. After spending another half hour with Huang Sui, I finally left. Women are truly a hero's grave, I sighed. I entered the forest with Haizi and the 3 young eagles. I whistled, and the eagles dove from the sky. They landed on my shoulders and arm, well-trained and obedient. Easy, you're scratching me. I fed the meat strips. No meat for you, Haizi, unless we find prey. I kicked the dog aside. Haizi was still too impatient, barking and scaring off game. It was just a puppy, lacking the necessary discipline. I sent the eagles to scout while I and Haizi began the hunt. I tracked the prey based on the eagles' signals, moving with precision. I rewarded Haizi with the organs of their kills, hanging the rest in the trees. I had to teach the dog that hunting led to rewards, or it would lose interest. All right, your belly is full, stop whining. I suspected Haizi was acting. The dog only sprinted after the gunshot, clearly feigning laziness. After gutting the prey, I tossed it into my space, which was nearly full. My space was only 3 cubic meters, holding about 3 tons of water or 167 barrels. While water fits perfectly, bulky items take more room, though thousands of pounds of game fit easily. Theoretically, the space could hold 6,000 pounds of meat, but packing limitations make that impossible. I spent the day wandering the forest with Haizi and the young eagles, eventually heading to the outskirts of Shirley Slope for larger game. Shirley Slope is massive, like a semi-primitive forest. Circling its perimeter takes an entire day. When Haizi chased a bird toward the slope, I called it back sharply. I slapped the dog and dragged it away by its collar. I scolded and kicked the dog, warning it not to wander off again. I remained vigilant. The outskirts were dangerous, and I was alone. I signaled Haizi to bait the trap. Seeing my calm demeanor, Haizi moved forward while I waited with my rifle. Once the prey was dead, I ordered the dog away. I gutted the kill, fed the organs to the animals, and stored the meat in my space. This method had already yielded several wolves and a plump, brown-furred fox. Suddenly, I smelled a strange, pungent odor, like rotting seafood, unlike any animal I'd encountered. I wondered why I could smell it but see nothing. Hidden under a tree, I watched as the young eagles flew off to hunt. Only I and the dog remained. The bait was only 30 meters away. I should have spotted any predator. Despite the smell, I detected no movement. I ordered Heisey to investigate. Heisey whined, clearly reluctant to move. I threatened to kick it. Heisey moved forward cautiously, sensing danger I couldn't yet see. Heisey whined in place, refusing to advance further. I threw a stone, forcing the dog forward. Heisey acted terrified, far more than it had been with the wolves. I grew cautious. Animals sense danger far better than humans. As Heisey approached the brush, something lunged at it. Heisey shrieked in terror. I rushed forward with my rifle, unafraid of a visible enemy. I shouted for the dog to stop panicking. I arrived to find a large python constricting Heisey. I fired a shot. My aim was precise enough to hit the snake without killing the dog. I accidentally grazed the dog's leg. The bullet pierced the snake, wounding the dog's leg, though it wasn't life-threatening. I fired again. The second shot hit the snake's head after it released the dog. The snake was killed instantly. I used my knife to free the dog. I comforted the whimpering dog, promising to cook the snake for it. I bandaged the dog's leg, ignoring its complaints about the minor wound. I dragged the heavy python away, planning to process it for meat. I stored the snake in my space and prepared to move on. Heisey's injury was superficial, allowing us to continue. I was surprised the bullet had penetrated the thick scales. We continued hunting, with Heisey still tracking despite its limp. I caught the scent of a wild boar herd. Wild boars have a distinct, pungent odor due to being uncastrated. This meat was highly valued by game collectors. I warned Heisey to stay back. I whistled, sending the young eagles to scout the area. The scent only indicated the boars had been nearby, not their current location. Using the eagles saved me from searching blindly. Hearing the young eagles cry, I pinpointed their location and sprinted toward them with my rifle. Heisey followed closely as I pushed through the tall grass, revealing a group of wild boars nearby. I retrieved my M1911 pistol from my space and chambered a round. Pistols are for finishing blows. They rarely kill a boar instantly, and a wounded, fleeing animal is often lost. Go, flank them. When you hear the shots, charge in to harass the herd, understand? Thanks to my upgraded beast taming skill, Heisey was highly intelligent. Like any well-trained hunting dog, it understood the command to flank. Heisey looked reluctant, but, under my gaze, begrudgingly slipped into the brush. I planned to use my rifle first. When the herd scattered after 5 shots, Heisey's sudden appearance would create the perfect opening. If I couldn't reload the rifle in time, I'd use the pistol. Precision was key, aiming for eyes, ears, or vulnerable spots. I couldn't pass up such a rare opportunity to hunt a group of medium-sized boars. While villagers prized the massive Paolon-Z trap-caught boars for their sheer size, they were mostly valued for the meat rations they provided. In truth, the meat of those massive boars, like domestic studs, was poor quality and lacked market appeal. However, a 200-pound wild boar was different. If prepared well, the meat was delicious and tender. With thinner hides than the giants, these boars were vulnerable to pistol fire. Bang, 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 bang. I fired 5 rapid shots, my technique flawless as I cycled the bolt and pulled the trigger in one fluid motion. Stowing the rifle, I drew my pistol and fired 7 more times. I killed 3 boars. The pistol's effective range was limited to 50 meters, and the herd was too alert to let me get closer. Killing 3 at that distance was a testament to my innate talent. Otherwise, I might have missed entirely. 8 boars in total, a massive haul. I cheered. I stored the carcasses in my space immediately. I couldn't risk butchering them on site. The scent of blood would attract predators like wolves or tigers, and I couldn't handle a large pack while reloading. Wolves were opportunistic. If I showed weakness, they would attack. Even with my Grandmaster level Krav Maga, I wasn't confident in fighting a 500-pound tiger barehanded. Let's go, time to head back. I tossed meat strips to Heisey and threw one into the air, which the young eagles caught mid-dive. I sprinted away, Heisey chewing on the go, while the eagles circled overhead. I checked my system panel. 19, Physique 25, Strength 35, Speed 25, Stamina 30, Space 3 cubic meters. Skills: Fishing, LV3+, Archery Limit Break, LV1+, Tracking, LV9, Beast Taming, LV5+, Krav Maga, LV9, Butchery, LV7+, Rock Climbing, LV7+, Marksmanship, LV8+, Carpentry, LV5+, Parkour, LV7+. Skill points, 283. With my first limit break option available and my points nearing 300, I felt bold. Hunting at Shirley Slope was risky, but the rewards were worth it. Driven by a need to reach 300 points, I spent the remaining daylight hunting small game like pheasants and rabbits. As dusk fell, I realized the danger of the forest at night and decided to descend immediately. I didn't check my total, but I knew I had enough. I refused to spend the night in the dangerous woods. I ran down the mountain, carrying only a few select items: a boar, 3 wolves, a fox, and some small game, to show the villagers, keeping the rest in my space. I needed to maintain my persona as a skilled hunter to justify my new house without raising too much suspicion. Hunting wasn't illegal, and my background as a soldier's son provided cover. I checked my points, 314. With over 300 points, I could upgrade multiple skills to Limit Break. I wondered if the cost was always 100 points, as Limit Break seemed to transcend human capability. While Grandmaster-level skills were achievable through hard work, Limit Break felt supernatural, like my archery gaining armor-piercing power. My arrows now flew in a straight line for 100 meters, defying standard ballistics, a power far beyond a mere pistol. I'm rich. I'll decide which skill to upgrade once I'm home. I arrived home to find Huang Sui waiting on a small stool. Bathed in the sunset, she tucked a stray hair behind her ear. Her serene smile washed away my exhaustion. Knowing someone was waiting for me made the long journey worth it. You're back? Why so late? I dropped the game and wiped my brow. Just chasing that silly dog. It wouldn't listen. Heisey, I asked, who are you waiting for? She replied, I'm waiting for sister-in-law to bring the shoe sole pattern. My heart sank. I sighed, deflated. I see. I'm going to wash up. Dinner is ready. Eat first. I'll wait a bit longer. Her words warmed my heart again, and I shook off my disappointment. Don't be dramatic, I muttered, kicking Heisey aside as I entered the house. The table was set with cabbage, radish, lettuce, and a mushroom egg soup, ingredients gathered by my family. They grew vegetables in the unused land around their house, a common practice that avoided scrutiny. It was a luxury, but I insisted they live well, promising to buy more if needed. Huang Sui entered with a paper shoe sole pattern, used for making traditional cloth shoes. Why bother with that? We can just buy Kiansengdi shoes, I asked. Making Kiansengdi was laborious, pasting layers of old cloth with flour paste to create a stiff, durable sole. The layers were then stitched together with an awl and needle, then bound with white cloth for a clean finish. It was a necessary skill for rural women of the era, as store-bought shoes were a luxury they couldn't afford. You don't understand. It's a way to pass the time. Besides field work, I have nothing to do. Stitching shoe soles with sister-in-law lets us chat and builds our bond. Oh, sister-in-law brought over some artemisia bean paste. You should try it. It's her secret recipe. Artemisia bean paste uses soybeans and mugwort, a chrysanthemum family plant, for its detoxifying properties. Regional variations include salt, watermelon, ginger, and star anise. Rural families often use watermelon rinds instead of the pulp. Fermentation is tricky. If done incorrectly, it can be toxic. Not recommended for amateurs. All right, let's taste sister-in-law's secret recipe. I took a bite with a pancake. It was good, with a faint, pleasant herbal aroma from the mugwort. After dinner, they finished their chores and shared an intimate moment. I lit a cigarette, satisfied, as Huang Sui quickly fell asleep. I took pride in her exhaustion. It proved my prowess. Those who feign resistance are just playing games. A truly skilled partner would ask for a break or try to push you away. Anything else is just mediocre performance. I checked my system. With my level 9 tracking in martial arts and level 8 marksmanship, I had plenty of points to distribute. To trigger a limit break, I needed to invest at least 200 points into my top skills, with the remainder going toward marksmanship, animal taming, and parkour. I planned to balance my skills. Marksmanship, 8, animal taming, 5, and parkour, 7. I have to do this. Without a limit break, I'll never know what surprises await, and my other skills are too low-level to matter. System, add the points. My stats: age 19, physique 30, strength 50, speed 28, stamina 36, space 9 cubic meters. Special skills: photographic memory, superhuman strength. Skills: fishing, 3, archery limit break, 1, scouting limit break, 1, animal taming, 7, martial arts limit break, 1, dissection, 7, rock climbing, 7, marksmanship, 9, carpentry, 5, parkour, 8. Skill points: 0. I had gambled correctly. Spreading points would have only leveled up skills, but this path unlocked something greater. Each limit break expanded my system space by 3 cubic meters, totaling a 6 cubic meter increase. I gained 2 special skills: photographic memory, linked to scouting/tracking, and superhuman strength, linked to martial arts. Redundant, linked to martial arts/Krav Maga. Remaining points boosted animal taming, marksmanship, and parkour, with minor increases to my physical stats. My strength reached a staggering 50. I realized these special skills required active activation rather than being passive. They had limits, like physical exertion. Mental focus caused fatigue. I was stronger than average, but not supernatural. 50 times human strength is a massive advantage, but it must be grounded in reality to avoid being cultivation tier nonsense. Weight, memory is linked to spirit. So is superhuman strength linked to physique? Physique is the anchor. The system provides the leverage. Without the physical base, you can't hold the weight for long. Photographic memory was exhausting, like pulling an all-nighter, but the information was permanently etched into my mind. I must test my strength tomorrow to see if I can truly move mountains. The next day, Huang Sui left for the fields early. I slept in, still buzzing from the night before. I checked the system. It wasn't a dream. My stats held, and my fatigue from the previous night's reading was gone. Feeling refreshed, I counted my money. After selling game, I had 8,000 yuan, even after setting aside 1,000 for Zhengyu Kingdom. I was nearly a 10,000 yuan household, closer to the life I wanted. I left daily spending money with Huang Sui and kept the rest in my system space. My space had expanded to 9 cubic meters, noticeably larger. Theoretically, it could hold 18,000 caddies of game, though practical storage would be less due to irregular shapes. I had nearly 5,000 caddies of meat, including 8 wild boars, stored inside. Selling it all to the steel mill would be wasteful. They couldn't pay high prices for rare game like Filong without raising suspicion. With the labor union watching, high-end game would be a liability for any official. I decided to sell in batches to avoid scrutiny and theft. Because the space kept items in stasis, the meat remained perfectly fresh, as if just killed. I would sell high-value game to restaurants and bulkier items like wolves and goats to the steel mill. I also had a sick deer in storage, a valuable prize. I pulled out a wild boar to butcher it, making it look like normal work. Living at the edge of the village, I was safe from prying eyes. Using my dissection skill, I skinned the boar efficiently without needing water. I finished the boars quickly, leaving the smaller game for later. Restaurants didn't want offal, so I decided to keep it. In the village, nothing went to waste. Even offal was a luxury for the poor. I distributed the fresh offal to the old courtyard, third uncle, and Huzi's home. If Huang Sui asked about the missing parts, I'd claim I had a secret hunter's cabin in the woods where I processed the game. I decided to store my other game in the wooden cabin to avoid attracting jealousy and the inevitable demand to surrender it to the collective. Huang Sui, knowing the village's history of seizing game, naturally sided with her husband. She had no intention of reporting their catch to the village party secretary, Su Daqiang. She trusted her husband. She didn't need to ask questions, and he didn't need to explain. I filled 2 basins with choice cuts, heart, liver, stomach, and 2 pounds of fatty meat, and headed toward the center of the village. I gave 1 basin to the village head, who often let me use the donkey cart and shielded me from gossip. The second basin went to Li Yukai, the village doctor. Though I needed nothing from him, Li was easygoing, and the family often received free medical care from him. So the meet was a gesture of gratitude. Li Yukai was a respected figure who frequently helped poor families with medical costs, rarely acting with the typical coldness of a businessman. "Uncle Yukai, I brought you something good," I said upon arrival. Li teased me for leaving my wife, but happily accepted the game meat. In this simple era, sharing with neighbors was essential for building a support network for future needs. "You're being awfully kind," Li remarked. "What do you want from me?" I ignored the comment and brought the meat inside. Li served me water, then disappeared into the next room, leaving me confused as to why he wasn't hosting his guest. I stayed to chat, knowing that social bonds required more than just dropping off a gift. Li soon returned, handing me a jar. "Drink this tonight. It'll make you feel vigorous, but don't overdo it, or you'll wear yourself out." I opened the jar to find wild ginseng and unknown herbs. It was medicinal wine. Why would the old man give me this? Then it hit me, the vigorous comment. I was speechless. "Uncle, I think there's a misunderstanding," I stammered. Li waved me off. "Don't be shy. Your eldest uncle just left, so this half is yours." I didn't care about my uncle, but I was impressed by the genuine wild ginseng. I couldn't bring myself to return the precious, expensive tonic. I felt I had to clarify, fearing Li would spread rumors about my performance to the village women. "Uncle, I really just wanted to give you some meat." Li looked skeptical. "If it's a misunderstanding, give the wine back." I hid the jar behind my back. I wanted to try the tonic regardless of the awkward context. "I couldn't possibly refuse a gift from an elder," I replied. Li understood the game, but knew the wine was gone for good. Li smirked, and my face twitched in suppressed frustration. Li interpreted my expression as embarrassment and decided to be generous, pitying the young couple's struggles. I realized the wine was a rare, high-value item that Li had likely paid a high price for, making my basin of meat a bargain. I decided to stop worrying about the misunderstanding. The benefit outweighed the social cost. Li thought he was being a supportive mentor, encouraging me to be open about my medical issues. Seeing Li's shelf full of medical texts, I grabbed one, hoping to trigger a skill. Li sighed, thinking the boy was desperate enough to study medicine himself. Li disappeared again and returned with another jar of wine. "Stop reading, you won't learn it overnight. Take this extra jar. Come back if you need more." I was annoyed. Did the old man really think I was that incapable? Li was a self-taught man of a turbulent era, and his skills were actually quite impressive for his circumstances. It was unfair to demand more from him. I accepted the wine with a grin, deciding to let Li believe whatever he wanted. Explaining would be futile, and I wasn't about to let a physical exam prove my health. "Uncle, I actually want to learn to identify herbs so I don't miss valuable finds while hunting." Li agreed. A hunter who knew foraging was a valuable asset. Hunters often roamed the mountains but lacked the knowledge to identify anything beyond ginseng. If I learned to identify herbs, I could bring them to Li, creating a mutually beneficial arrangement. "A hunter who doesn't know herbs isn't a true mountain goer," Li declared. He began digging through his collection to find study materials for me. He produced over a dozen books filled with detailed, sketch-like illustrations of various herbs. "Take these, study them, and come back to me with questions." Li was motivated. If I could forage, Li would save time and money, as he couldn't afford to buy herbs for the village's free care. He simply couldn't afford to pay out of pocket for everything. I returned home and used my photographic memory to absorb the books. I found that memorizing images was far less taxing than reading dense text. The descriptions were brief, making the process efficient, like running a light app versus a heavy game on a computer. I managed to memorize 3 books of illustrations before finally feeling the mental fatigue set in. I decided to take a break from studying to avoid burnout. I chose to test my superhuman strength ability to see if I could truly lift 5,000 gene. Lacking a tractor to test against, I headed into the mountains to find a massive boulder. Carrying my gun, I told others I was hunting, which raised no suspicions given my habit of hunting with Huzi. After crossing several peaks, I struggled to find a rock weighing anywhere near 5,000 gene. Sigh, I'll have to settle for what I can find. I located a boulder about a person's height, estimated to be a few thousand gene. Ensuring I was alone, I activated my ability. A surge of inexplicable rage welled up, and I felt infinite power flood my arms. Keeping my composure, I checked my surroundings again before grabbing the boulder. I slowly lifted the boulder, raising it until I held it high above my head. With a burst of effort, I hurled the rock nearly 10 meters, shocked by my own power. I dared not test my absolute limit, fearing that if the ability expired while holding the weight, I would be crushed to death. The distance I threw the rock confirmed that the 5,000 gene capacity was likely achievable. Incredible strength, but how do I test the limit? I spent 4 or 5 minutes tossing the rock back and forth until fatigue set in, stopping to avoid injury. Exhaustion hit me suddenly, forcing me to sit on the ground to recover. I had been cautious, avoiding holding the weight for too long to prevent a fatal accident. After resting for several minutes, I regained my strength and headed down the mountain, bagging 2 wild rabbits on the way. Back home, I resumed my studies. Using my photographic memory, I memorized half the herbal illustrations in the books by focusing only on appearance, name, and function. The books were primarily identification guides rather than medical texts, focusing on distinguishing similar-looking plants. While the sketches made identification tricky, I could grasp the basics. That afternoon, I went to the city to deliver game to Zhang Yuegua to maintain our relationship. I arrived at the steel mill's finance department. Sorry for the trouble, Brother Zhang. I'll bring better game next time. Just don't bring this low-quality stuff again, or my boss will chew me out. I had sold him lower-value items like wild wolves, dogs, and old wild boars. Even common game was usually highly sought after, but the steel mill staff had become picky. I realized they were spoiled. If they wanted better, they would have to pay more. I refused to sell premium game like roe deer or venison at low prices. I sold 1,500 gene of mixed-quality meat to the mill at market price, roughly 0.68 yuan per gene. The only advantage was the speed of the sale, but since other factories could offer the same, the mill had no monopoly. With my reputation growing through Wei Huaida's word of mouth, other factories were now aware of the young hunter. I avoided direct competition by keeping the steel mill as my primary contact for now. Leaving the mill, I sold another 1,000 gene of mid-tier game like goats and badgers to various local restaurants. While the steel mill sale earned me over 1,000 yuan, the restaurant sales netted me 1,500 yuan. With 2,000 yuan in hand, I took my donkey cart to the city to sell my remaining premium stock to several high-end restaurants. No single buyer could handle my total inventory of nearly 5,000 gene. Having sold all my stock in one day, my total income exceeded 4,000 yuan, making me a 10,000 yuan household. Even after setting aside 1,000 yuan for Zhang Yuegua, I held over 11,000 yuan. I was now the richest man in Sanshuiwan Village, but I resolved to remain low-key to avoid trouble. Back in the village, I returned the cart and finished memorizing the remaining herbal books. When I returned the books to Li Yukai and asked for more, Li was skeptical, as such rapid learning seemed impossible. While photographic memory helps with recognition, memorizing complex herbal details is usually much harder. Li assumed I was only memorizing the most useful or valuable herbs. This assumption made my speed seem plausible to the old man. Li figured I was only picking out the dozen or so herbs actually found in their region. Young people's brains are truly sharp, Li sighed, thinking I was wasting my potential by being selective. Li believed that without practical application, memorizing non-local herbs was useless. Li gave me 5 or 6 more books. Take these, you should gain something from them. I accepted them, though I knew I wouldn't gain any skills yet, as I lacked practical experience in medicine. The books were merely introductory, teaching identification rather than complex formulas or dosages. Without understanding how to combine herbs, I was simply expanding my knowledge base, not yet practicing medicine. Come eat. I made your favorite spicy rabbit. Why are you reading medical books? Is old man Li taking you on as an apprentice? Huang Sui teased, setting out chopsticks for me. I climbed down and took a bite of rabbit. He's a traditional practitioner. He wouldn't easily take me on. I could borrow books, though. Li Yukai wasn't stingy with knowledge, but his ancestral formulas, the result of generations of trial and error, were his livelihood and strictly guarded. Knowing a herb's function isn't the same as knowing how to use it, just as knowing cabbage is for cooking doesn't make one a master chef. Traditional Chinese medicine relies on experience. Apprenticeships take decades. One can't claim to be a doctor just by memorizing herb names. If you aren't learning medicine, why study so hard? Huang Sui rolled her eyes, a sight that made my appetite grow. Who said beauty was a blade? It was a feast. Stop staring. Haven't you seen enough after all this time? She no longer blushed at my gaze. She had grown accustomed to my scrutiny. We were an old married couple now. There was nothing left to hide. She gave me another look, devoid of pretense. I suppressed my urges, finished my meal, and returned to my books. I studied in bursts, resting between sessions to manage the mental strain. By nightfall, I had memorized all 15 books, my recall now instantaneous. That night, Huang Sui was remarkably compliant, fulfilling my every request without hesitation. She had evolved from a shy bride to a partner who anticipated my needs with silent, seamless synergy. Her enthusiasm had finally prompted me to try the medicinal wine Li Yukai had given me. Awkwardly, I poured a glass early that morning, only to be spotted by Li Yukai, who had wandered over. I realized the misunderstanding. The wine wasn't a stimulant, but a tonic for general vitality. It was meant to nourish, not merely to exhaust my reserves. Li Yukai had actually come to check if I was genuinely studying or just mocking him. Seeing me drinking the tonic at dawn, Li Yukai assumed the worst. Had the boy's needs become that desperate? I read the old man's expression but didn't bother explaining, simply inviting him in. Cough, just eating? Where's Sui? I chewed my rabbit calmly. Helping my mother in the fields. I eat whenever I wake up. Li Yukai sighed with envy, declining my offer of food. I've eaten. I just came to see if you had any questions about the herbs. I rolled my eyes at the old man's shamelessness. I'll borrow more books later. Good for learning how to bandage wounds. Li Yukai agreed, dismissing the comment as casual talk. After testing my knowledge and finding me surprisingly sharp, Li Yukai lamented, "It's a waste for you to be a hunter. You should practice medicine." I thought, "You're just a barefoot doctor without a degree. What's the point?" "Not my ambition," I replied, continuing to eat as Li Yukai watched me drink the tonic. Huzi burst in, and Li Yukai took the hint and left. Coming over at dawn, "What's up?" I asked. Huzi replied, "It's nearly 10. I checked my watch, realizing I'd slept in after the previous night's activities. "What do you want?" "I need you to come to the city with me." "Why?" "The game is already sold. My fiancé's father demands a big item before the wedding." "You're actually going through with this?" I was surprised at how quickly things had progressed toward marriage. Huzi nodded, looking sheepish. "Is her family reliable?" I asked, wary of a scam. I offered a subtle warning, leaving the decision to Huzi. Huzi scratched his head. "The father is just competitive. He wants a big item because others in their village got them." Wang Bolong. "A strange obsession," I noted. "Do you like the girl?" Huzi nodded. "Fine. What are you buying?" "I want a bike, but my mother wants a sewing machine. It's safer if the in-laws keep it." I understood. The bridal gift pressure was intense. A bike was expensive, while a sewing machine was a practical, mid-range investment. If you want new items, you'll need tickets from the black market. Used ones are easier to find. Decide what you want. We have time. The black market opens at night. No need to decide. We're getting the sewing machine first, then the bike after the wedding. It was a sensible precaution against greedy in-laws. I had only given my wife a watch. I hadn't bothered with the standard big items, and luckily, the Huang family hadn't cared. "Fine, that's settled. Let's head to town this afternoon to pick out some new clothes for your wedding." Huzi nodded eagerly. He hated the idea of wearing the second-hand clothes his parents insisted on, even if they looked nearly new. He was determined to wear something new for his wedding, even if it meant getting a scolding later. Huzi envied my independence. While they were the same age, I could make my own decisions without family interference. I had handled my own marriage arrangements, even buying watches for myself and my wife, a luxury few in Sanshuiwan or even among the educated youth possessed. Huzi felt like a controlled middle schooler compared to me, who commanded my own life. Little did he know, I envied Huzi's stable family life. Without my constant financial support, my own family would have fallen apart. In my previous life, my family had struggled, forcing me to leave the village to survive. "What's her name? Have you talked? Is she actually willing to marry you?" I asked, wary of the era's common, arranged tragedies where parents forced children into loveless marriages for money. The era was shifting, The old ways of parental control were clashing with the rising tide of free love. This transition was inevitable, and those resisting the progress of the times would be left behind. She thinks I'm honest and reliable, so she seems happy enough, Huzi replied with a grin. I hoped my presence had changed Huzi's fate for the better, ensuring him a happy life. With time to spare, they decided to hunt before heading to town, hoping for more than just a few rabbits. Huzi wanted to earn his own money for the clothes rather than relying on me, despite knowing I would gladly pay. They grabbed their bows and rifle, left a note for Huang Sui, and headed into the mountains. Since Huang Sui was well-educated, I knew she wouldn't worry unnecessarily. Huzi stuck close to me, relying on my expert tracking skills rather than the dog or the eagles. I whistled, sending the 3 young eagles into the sky to scout, leaving Huzi in awe. Huzi had seen me train Heizi, but the eagles were a shock. He hadn't realized my library research had actually yielded such results. Brother, you're incredible. The eagles' precise movements proved they were genuine hunting assets, not just for show. Haha, if you put in the effort, you could do it too, I laughed. While I hadn't actually spent much time training them, it was true that such skills were attainable with dedication. Many hunters in the surrounding villages, like those who organized the dole hunts or trap sweeps, possessed such specialized knowledge. If Huzi were willing to pay for instruction, he could easily find a master to teach him, as the old trade secret mentality was slowly fading. Times have changed. Hunting is no longer the only path, making the craft less lucrative. I don't have your discipline, Suyu. I couldn't keep that up for days. Huzi wondered if I had secretly trained the young eagles to make them so obedient. A sharp cry pierced the sky. The sound was crisp and clear, echoing across the heavens. What kind of eagle is that? Huzi asked. I realized I didn't actually know. We only have Besra, gerfalcon, and owl here. It's not an owl, so it must be one of the others. While other species exist, the local environment favors these 3. Encountering anything else is highly improbable. It's not a Besra. These 3 are already too large for that. Huzi recalled his grandfather's hunting tales, knowing enough to identify the size and type of raptors. They locked eyes and whispered, Gerfalcon? Could it really be 3 gerfalcons? I hadn't cared about the breed until Huzi brought it up. I'm not sure. No one in the village keeps them. I'll ask around later. Gerfalcons are noble raptors, famous for their ability to hunt prey like swans, which weigh 25 pounds, despite the falcon weighing only 4. Their ability to hunt prey far larger than themselves made them favorites of ancient emperors. Their status as imperial tribute cemented their reputation, setting them apart from other raptors. Let's keep this to ourselves. It's better if word doesn't spread. I feared attracting trouble from local thugs or remnants of the old elite who might covet such birds. In this era, money can still corrupt, and those with wealth might try to seize the birds to flaunt their status. Desperation drives people to extremes. When survival is at stake, people will do anything for money. I wasn't afraid, but I wanted to avoid unnecessary conflict. As long as the secret stayed in the village, I was safe. I only worried about city dwellers looking to cause trouble for a villager. Seeing the 3 eagles circling above, I realized they had spotted prey. Let's go. Dismissing the breed, I grabbed my rifle and headed out, warning Huzi to keep quiet. Huzi followed close behind. Heizi, familiar with the eagles, led the way, sensing the hunt. Despite his speed, Heizi approached the target with tactical caution, slowing down and crouching as they neared. Huzi was stunned to see his dog, Heizi, acting with such seasoned hunting instincts. What's going on? I just went on a blind date, and the world changed? Since when can Heizi hunt? Heizi used to be a dim-witted pup. This sudden display of intelligence felt surreal. Stop daydreaming and move. Heizi and the 3 young eagles can't handle this alone. While the eagles are great at catching rabbits, they are helpless against larger prey. Huzi grabbed his rifle and followed. They had an agreement. Whoever kills it, keeps it. I wouldn't hog everything, but Huzi had to earn his share. Huzi crouched and followed me. Heizi lay low, tail twitching, watching me intently, waiting for the signal to charge. Heizi used to be reckless, but my discipline had taught it who was in charge. This wasn't abuse, it was natural hierarchy. Dogs are descendants of wolves, and wolves operate on strict social structures. In a pack, the alpha eats first, and the rest follow in order of rank. The alpha earns its status through strength, securing food, and mating rights. Challengers are beaten until a new leader emerges. To train a dog, you must establish yourself as the alpha. If a dog guards its food from you, it sees you as a peer, not a leader. A firm lesson in hierarchy ensures the dog respects your authority, even during meals. My presence kept Heisey in check. The dog learned through instinct that crossing the alpha meant punishment. It became a conditioned reflex, like salivating at the sight of a bone. I pointed to a dozen Chinese water deer about 30 meters away. Heisey whimpered, desperate to charge. Smack! I swatted the dog. Quiet. You're barely knee-high. You can't take them. Heisey was a wolf-green dog, but it was still an immature pup. Experiments show that even a single wolf possesses immense strength, requiring multiple men to restrain it. While wolf-green dogs are powerful, they aren't fully grown wolves yet. Still, they are brave enough to face tigers if they have a pack. But these deer were fast and alert, unlike the foolish Siberian roe deer. There are too many. We might miss some if we shoot now. I hesitated. A dozen deer were too fast to take down easily, even with my hidden pistol. Unlike wild boars, these deer react instantly. They can leap several meters in a single bound and vanish. I didn't want to reveal my pistol to Heisey just to bag a few more deer. It wasn't worth exposing my trump card. It wasn't about being reported. Many veterans kept their service pistols, but I preferred to keep my edge secret. I wanted to keep my advantage hidden. I'll circle around. We shoot simultaneously. Aim carefully. I don't want to get hit. Heisey nodded, and I signaled Heisey to stay put. I moved alone to avoid being caught in Heisey's line of fire, ensuring we covered different angles to maximize our catch. Splitting up was the most efficient strategy. Bang, bang, bang. Heisey followed the sound of my shots, carefully avoiding my position. He was terrified of accidentally hitting me. Heisey was slower to reload and only had time for 2 shots. He focused on the smaller targets, leaving the larger ones for his second shot. My initial shots forced the deer to scatter toward Heisey, giving him a brief window for a second attempt. At the first shot, Heisey bolted. The confusion caused by the crossfire gave Heisey his opening. Heisey lunged, clamping onto a deer's hind leg. Damn it, you're stealing my kill. Heisey cursed. Heisey had to adjust his aim to avoid shooting the dog. Heisey secured 2 kills, while I took 4. The final shot hit the deer Heisey was holding, though the dog was sent flying by a kick. My quick reflexes finished the job. Bang! The 4th shot hit. Total. 4 for me, 2 for Heisey. Heisey was limping but fine. They gutted the deer. Heisey tried to feed the eagles, but they only took food from me. Heisey envied my bond with the animals. He couldn't train them himself, and hiring someone else wouldn't work. If I trained them, the animals would only recognize me as the master. It would be pointless for Heisey to try. Without personal training, the animals would never truly belong to him. They were loyal only to the one who raised them. Heisey understood the reality of the situation. I cut up the deer organs and tossed them into the air. The eagles dove for the meat, and the rest went to Heisey. All right, you did well. You'll get big bones later. Seeing Heisey whimpering against my leg, I patted the dog's head and told Heisey it was nearly 3 p.m., time to head back. They still needed to buy new clothes for Heisey before the shops closed. The schedule was tight, especially since they had to sell the game first. Heisey laughed, confident that selling 2 30-gene Chinese water deer would be easy. The light weight made travel easy, and Heisey was strong enough to carry the 60-gene load. For me, it was even easier. The deer had shown surprising ferocity, kicking Heisey away, though the dog was nearly the same size. Heisey was still a puppy, lacking the bite force and experience to handle a desperate, struggling animal. I asked for a rope to bundle the catch for easier transport. I led the way back. Heisey, though slightly injured from a previous encounter with a python and the recent kick, recovered quickly enough to follow. The pair trekked back, I in the lead with the game, followed by Heisey and the dog. The 3 gerfalcons had returned to their wooden box, nestled in a jujube tree I had transplanted to the old courtyard. I had trained them to return on command. The tree stood by the wall near Heisey's kennel, keeping them safe from thieves. I had finally built a proper kennel for the dog. The 4 Chinese water deer weighed at least 120 gene, even after being gutted. I decided to keep one for my sister at the old courtyard. Heisey admired my generosity, Most hunters would sell everything for pork, which was more economical. I didn't care about the money, valuing the wild game over domestic pork. I told Huzi to borrow a bicycle while I prepped the meat. They couldn't take a donkey cart to the black market, so they needed bicycles. Huzi agreed and left to find the village head. I gutted the deer, chopped one into pieces, and carried the basin into my room, locking the door behind me. I discarded my previous letter to Huang Sui and wrote a new one. I informed my family I was taking Huzi to town for wedding supplies and instructed Huang Sui to cook the deer at the old courtyard and stay there. Huzi returned with the bicycles just as I finished. I locked the house, tied the 3 remaining deer to the bicycle seats, and they prepared to depart. They hadn't caught the largest deer because they were hesitant to shoot the same target, allowing the biggest ones to escape. They rode toward the county, leaving Huzi behind to guard the house as instructed. They headed to the city restaurant where I had previously sold the swan, planning to visit the county black market on the return trip. I warned manager Lu not to lowball me again, threatening to take my business elsewhere. Manager Lu felt unfairly accused, believing he had paid a fair price last time. Lu played the diplomat, emphasizing mutual benefit and the high costs of running a state-owned restaurant. Lu complained about the pressure of feeding his staff to justify his tight margins. I scoffed internally at the manager's hypocrisy regarding the state-owned enterprise. I countered by threatening to take my goods to Pyamanlu restaurant, mentioning I had sold a black bear to manager Fan previously. This was a strategic move to show I had options. Lu's expression shifted. He knew Pyamanlu had been featuring bear meat and realized I was the supplier. Lu had previously underestimated me, viewing me as a naive country bumpkin. Lu now suspected I had been underpaid by Pyamanlu, which was why I was trying my luck here. Lu regretted not paying more for the swans, fearing he had lost the bear deal to his competitor. He realized a slightly higher price for the swans might have secured the bear meat for his own restaurant. Lu quickly pivoted, asking why I hadn't gone to Pyamanlu first. He felt a mix of regret and schadenfreude, hoping I had been mistreated by his rival. I claimed I had a falling out with manager Fan. I lied, saying Fan wanted an exclusive supply contract that would have stripped me of bargaining power. I knew this lie was safe because rival managers rarely trusted each other's accounts of suppliers. It was an unsolvable puzzle for Lu, who couldn't verify the claim. Lu was convinced by the story, believing Fan was trying to monopolize my high-quality game. My youthful appearance made my story seem more credible to the manager. Lu knew I was capable, having seen the quality of my game firsthand. The quality of the deer and the previous swan confirmed my value as a supplier. Lu felt threatened by Pyamanlu's success and feared his superiors would blame his management if his rival outperformed him. The proximity of the 2 restaurants made the competition intense. Lu warned me against signing exclusive contracts, framing it as a trap for a simple hunter. He praised my intelligence to build rapport. Lu urged me to bring all my game to him, promising fair prices and a reliable partnership. Lu exploited the common rural lack of legal knowledge, which the state was trying to address through literacy classes and film screenings. The state aimed to enlighten the populace to prevent social disorder caused by ignorance. Rural residents were often wary of contracts, viewing them with the same fear as a binding thumbprint. Lu used this fear to manipulate me, scaring me away from competitors while positioning himself as the only trustworthy buyer. Having lived 2 lifetimes, I found it tiresome to feign innocence. Seeing my hesitation, manager Lu played his trump card. Don't worry, I'll give you a fair price, 1.5 yuan per gene for these deer. How's that? You won't find a better offer anywhere else. The deer were small, weighing 30 to 40 gene each, and once dressed, there wasn't much meat left. However, in rural areas, fish and game are weighed whole before cleaning. If one were to scale, gut, and fillet them first, the price would naturally be higher. Selling whole is standard practice for hunters. I knew 1.5 yuan per gene was a generous price, as I had sold deer before. Haha deal. Many thanks for the favor, Brother Lu. They weighed the catch. My haul was 100 gene, and Huzi's was over 60 gene. That meant 150 yuan for me and 90 for Huzi, a tidy profit. I had originally hunted 4 deer, but kept 1, leaving 3 totaling 100 gene. Brother Lu, no need to see us out. Farewell. Huzi and I took our bikes and left. Huzi had witnessed the whole thing and knew I was lying about their exclusive supplier status with Manager Fan. Huzi had been anxious, terrified the lie would be exposed. Once they were clear of the restaurant, Huzi let out a long breath. Brother, you scared me. What if he'd called Manager Fan to check? You're too timid. Even if we ran into Fan, so what? I didn't force a high price. Whether we are partners with Piaman Lu is irrelevant. Lu offered the price himself. And even if caught, it's just bragging, not fraud. We were just chatting, not negotiating. Huzi realized that since no price had been discussed prior to the chat, the logic held up. I'm impressed, but doesn't it feel wrong? I understood Huzi's unease. He was simply too honest for the cutthroat business world. It was a lack of experience. In the real world, such tactics were trivial. People make their own choices, like those who take out predatory loans. The salesman just provides the option. Huzi saw it as leading people into a trap, whereas I saw it as personal responsibility. Sometimes an extra choice is a temptation, but the burden remains with the individual. Listen, don't ever go into sales. It's not for you. Huzi judged things by simple morality, ignoring that adults must own their own decisions. Let's go. We're almost at the mall. Decided on your clothes yet? Huzi, being simple-minded, didn't dwell on the sales comment. With 90 yuan, I can pick whatever I want, right? I was speechless at his bravado. In this era, 90 yuan was plenty for a decent outfit. They parked their bikes with a paid attendant, receiving a split playing card as a claim ticket. The fee was 5 cents, the price of a pack of cheap cigarettes. Let's head to the men's section. Though men's section wasn't a formal term yet, Huzi understood the intent. They avoided the high-end stores requiring foreign currency and stuck to a domestic shop. The store was filled with a variety of local goods. I helped Huzi pick out a formal mouse suit and a black suit. They bought a full set, including genuine leather shoes and a belt. That's 45 for the suit, 35 for the shoes. Use the last 10 for the belt. I made the decision for him, ensuring he got quality gear. Great. I'm broke again, Huzi grumbled. Mission accomplished. Did you bring the money your dad gave you? That money was strictly for the sewing machine in the black market. If he spent that, he'd be in serious trouble at home. Don't worry, I sewed it into my clothes. Pickpockets were rampant, and I knew the city was no safer than the county. Good. Let's grab a bite before we head out this evening. They bought a scarf and hat, retrieved their bikes, and left. Brother, what time will we reach the county? Without the game, we'll be there in 40 minutes. In a rush? Not really, but I need to use the bathroom. Damn it. Why didn't you go at the mall? We don't have paper. It was April, and finding suitable leaves was difficult. I had supplies in my space, but I couldn't explain them away. Should I find you a stick to scrape with? Experience how they did it in the Qin dynasty. Huzi urged me to ride faster, desperate to reach the county town to find a restroom. I pedaled hard, covering the 40-minute journey in just 15 minutes. The ride was bumpy, and Huzi barely held on until they reached a wonton shop and bolted inside. Huzi loudly demanded the location of the restroom, drawing stares from everyone. I, embarrassed, pretended not to know him. I ordered 2 bowls of wontons to appease the owner and asked if my friend could use the facilities. By ordering food, I ensured the owner wouldn't be offended by their request. The owner agreed and sent an employee, Xiaoli, to guide Huzi. I provided toilet paper, and Huzi rushed off. I ordered wontons, fried dough sticks, egg drop soup, and radish pickles. Huzi returned only after the food was served, drawing more attention. Huzi noticed the stares and asked why everyone was looking at him. I thought to myself that Huzi was lucky people were currently simple-minded. In the future, such behavior would get him kicked out. I lied, claiming they were just envious of his loud voice. Huzi didn't believe him but didn't care, focusing on his meal. They were less frantic than their first visit, though Huzi still enjoyed the refined flour. After eating, I suggested they visit the library until evening. Huzi, having a junior high education, could read, though he disliked it. Reading was a chore for him. I enticed him by mentioning the library had Manhua picture books. I also pointed out that staying outside in April meant being eaten by mosquitoes. Huzi agreed, and they headed to the library after I returned my previous books. I studied traditional Chinese medicine, TCM, and acupuncture, while Huzi read martial arts novels. I used my photographic memory for half an hour, then switched to novels to rest my mind. I cycled between medical texts and novels to pass the time. My erratic behavior caught the attention of the librarian and other patrons. To others, my study habits seemed inconsistent. The librarian approached, asking if I was struggling with the books. He assumed I was switching topics to clear my head. I explained I was using the switching method to reinforce my memory. The explanation sounded perfectly logical. The librarian praised the technique. Nearby students overheard and were intrigued. They decided to mimic my method to improve their own revision. Soon, the tables were full of students alternating between textbooks and leisure books. They admired my clever approach to studying. Huzi remained oblivious, engrossed in his book. I continued my routine, unbothered by the library's shift. I finished 2 medical books. These books were more complex than my previous materials, covering basic TCM theory and pharmacology. I told Huzi it was time to leave and offered to let him borrow books using my card. Huzi eagerly picked a dozen martial arts novels, confident in my funds. I confirmed the selection. I also borrowed a dozen medical books and a copy of Ziji Tongjian. I asked the librarian to tally the cost. Despite the late hour, the librarian processed the request for a 10 yuan deposit. They secured the books to their bikes and headed for the black market. Huzi asked if I had a flashlight. My bag looked full, so Huzi assumed I did. I actually had one in my space. I confirmed I had one. They reached the black market entrance and found a sheltered spot. Huzi volunteered to guard the bikes, fearing they couldn't escape if public security arrived. It was a sensible precaution. I was surprised by Huzi's initiative. I asked if Huzi wanted to pick out his own sewing machine. Huzi declined, trusting my judgment. I would have refused anyone else. The black market was risky, and getting caught meant trouble. But Huzi was simple-minded, so I accepted the responsibility. I told Huzi to stay alert, masked up, paid the entry fee, and entered. The guard let me pass without further questioning. The guards whispered about how familiar my figure looked. The leader dismissed it, noting that everyone in the black market looked the same when masked. They laughed and moved on. I slipped into the black market, not just for Huzi, but to buy cheap grain at a few cents per caddy. Shortly after, I made several trips through the alleys with grain sellers. I then bought a sewing machine ticket before planning my departure. My repeated trips with grain sellers drew attention. Everyone knew exactly what I was doing. I remained empty-handed, which unsettled onlookers. Since the sellers never returned after leaving with me, they assumed I had a hidden team moving the grain. They speculated I was purchasing in bulk for my entire village. While the black market is illegal, impoverished villages often struggle to feed residents and educated youth, forcing village heads to take risks to prevent starvation. Faced with state quotas and starving children, some village heads are compelled to break the law to secure extra rations. Village heads are usually elected by large, multi-generational clans who share common ancestors and maintain tight-knit, exclusive ties. The most capable member of such a clan typically rises to become the village head. This clan unity gives them a voting advantage over less organized villagers, ensuring their dominance. When visiting the black market, a village head brings trusted, same clan juniors who are unlikely to betray him. Observers concluded I was acting on behalf of my village, backed by a group of clansmen nearby. Many backed off, though a few stubborn individuals kept their eyes on me. These predators, usually in groups of 7 or 8, were ruthless and hoped to intimidate the country bumpkins for profit. They weren't worried about retaliation, believing they could easily outrun or overpower the supposedly soft-hearted farmers. I, however, remained unbothered. My possession of a pistol gave me total confidence. With my night vision and superior marksmanship, I feared no one, even if others were armed. My pistol offered rapid-fire capability, and I knew my shooting skills far outclassed anyone in the market. I wasn't looking for trouble, but I refused to be timid. A gun was a tool to be used, not a mere prop. Realizing that ruthlessness is necessary in the shadows, I stopped at a stall run by an elderly woman. The woman was an amateur, displaying her goods openly rather than keeping them concealed. Her lack of caution made her vulnerable to public security raids. "Ma'am, are these skirts secondhand?" I asked. The vendors, like the predators, were also watching me closely. "Yes, they are, but they're clean and in excellent condition," she replied. "Please buy something. My granddaughter has a high fever, and I have no other choice." I noted the handmade quality of the clothes, suggesting the woman was once from a wealthy household. Seeing her desperation and preventing her from kneeling, I pulled her up. Don't do that. How much for the medical bills? 10 yuan, to save her life. 10 yuan was a fortune in the village, equivalent to 5 months of labor points. Few would sacrifice a year's savings for a stranger, and as a former rich household, she was socially isolated for fear of political repercussions. The villagers avoided her to stay out of trouble. Here is 15. I'll take everything. Leave quickly and stay safe. The inventory included children's skirts, quilts, and winter clothing. Her ability to knit suggested she was a former rich household, likely spared from total ruin but still marginalized. I didn't know if helping was correct, but I chose to act on my ability to save a life. The woman tried to kneel again, but I urged her to flee, though she insisted on my name to honor me. I gave her a name, indifferent to the potential risk. As she left, I noticed predators tailing her and quickly intercepted them. I grabbed 2 of them by the shoulders. Leave it be. That's life-saving money. Who the hell are you? Mind your own business, the 4 men shouted. I didn't tolerate insults. Slap. I struck one man so hard he spun around. The man collapsed, leaving the crowd stunned at my audacity in the black market. The victim was humiliated and enraged. Damn you, I'll kill you. The 4 men, known for their ruthlessness, drew knives. I, now a master of breakthrough-level martial arts, stood unfazed by these thugs. I moved like the wind. Slap, slap, slap. I incapacitated all 4 with minimal effort, leaving them with broken limbs. The crowd was shocked by my speed and power. Those who had viewed me as a target now realized I was a dangerous expert. Others doubted I could survive the consequences of breaking the market's rules. They believed that no matter how good my martial arts were, I couldn't outrun a bullet. They assumed the market would have me killed in the dark, leaving no trace for the public security to follow. You bastard, Lu Yi won't let you get away with this, the thugs shrieked. I ignored their threats. I packed the woman's goods and strapped them to my back, unconcerned by the trouble I had invited. Friend, you caused trouble on Fox's turf and think you can just walk away? The market's enforcer, Fox, arrived to address the violation of their rules. Order was essential for the black market to function and attract customers. I acknowledged I had broken the rules by starting the fight. My apologies, I acted in haste. State your terms. Fox was surprised by my calm, non-submissive demeanor. Fine. To settle this, leave an arm and pay 100 yuan. Then you can go. Fox intended to use me as an example to maintain his authority. I acknowledged I had broken the black market's rules, but I refused to accept the unreasonable demand of sacrificing an arm. Fox was overestimating himself if he thought he could dictate terms based on convenience. I was willing to pay medical expenses, as I had benefited from the market and accepted the consequences of violating its rules. However, using me to make an example was a mistake. I was low-key, but my marksmanship and physical prowess made me more than a match for these armed men. If this were a different character, they certainly wouldn't have offered to pay at all. My willingness to pay stemmed from my respect for the rules, not fear. The black market existed because it served the public, and while illegal, public security turned a blind eye, only conducting periodic raids to maintain a facade of law. It was akin to a vice raid, though the nature differed. Fox, do you think I'm easy to bully, or that I'll accept any price just because I'm willing to pay? I had been giving the market face, but if Fox mistook this for fear, he needed a reality check. Fox was stunned. He had never met someone so bold. So, you're refusing to comply? Fox's men leveled their rifles and shotguns at me. The crowd scattered, sensing an imminent shootout. Everyone knew a gunfight would inevitably draw the public security. So what if I don't? Think those toys scare me? Shoot if you have the guts. I pointed to my head, daring him to fire. The onlookers were shocked by my audacity. Fox turned pale. He dared not commit public murder. Killing in public would force a massive investigation, exposing the market and its leadership to interrogation. The market's owner wouldn't protect him. Challenging state authority was an unforgivable offense. Not even the owner's backers would risk their necks for such a blatant provocation of the law. Get him, break his limbs, and throw him out. Fox chose to beat me instead, though he knew his reputation was already ruined. He had never encountered someone who treated their own life so recklessly. Attack. The men advanced, ropes in hand to restrain me. I didn't wait. I lunged at the nearest man, sending him flying with a single kick. Bang! The man crashed into his comrades, and I dove into the fray, my martial arts overwhelming them. Bang! 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 Gunfire erupted, but the men only managed to wound each other. I snatched a rifle and fired 5 precise shots, crippling the legs of the most aggressive attackers. After reloading, I kicked Fox to the ground. I pressed the rifle to Fox's forehead. Cough. Shoot if you dare. I don't believe you have the guts. Fox's men were either incapacitated or too terrified to move. You've got guts, but are you still unconvinced? I mocked. I might not kill you, but I can cripple you, your limbs, or worse. I shifted the barrel, and Fox broke into a cold sweat. With the crowd gone, Fox finally relented. I yield. May I know your name? You think you can just yield and demand my name? You've got some nerve. Fox was trembling with rage, realizing I was a ruthless expert who wouldn't hesitate to kill if there were no witnesses. He knew he had hit a wall. What do you want? I slapped him twice, hard, then hoisted him up by his collar. You? Fox glared, but his men were too scared to act with the police likely on their way. I'm just balancing your face. One slap on each side, fair and square. Fox bit his tongue to keep from cursing. What do you want? I want your head. I taunted him, mocking his earlier demand to break my arm. Without waiting for a plea, I snapped Fox's arm. You tried to break my arm without knowing the context. I was cleaning up your trash. Are you brainless? I was relentless. Fox's stoicism in the face of the broken arm shocked his own men. Friend, show some mercy. Let him go, and I'll guarantee your safe exit. A middle-aged man approached with his own armed guards, looking at Fox with cold indifference. He only intervened because Fox was his subordinate. I recognized him. The Sixth Master, the true power behind the market. Compared to the Sixth Master, local thugs like Hong Dakue were insignificant, and Fox was merely a disposable pawn. Liu Ye's influence spans both the underworld and legitimate circles. He wouldn't control the black market without powerful backing. His capability is formidable. I have no desire to offend such a man, but I am not afraid either. Masked and precise, I know no one can link these actions to my true identity, even if a bounty were issued. You must be Liu Yi, just a nickname the underworld gave me. You can call me Liu Zi, little brother. Liu Yi is no simple character. True powerhouses are humble, having seen the vastness of the world, unlike the arrogant frogs in a well. Liu Yi acts as a proxy for others. He maintains a facade of restraint to remain useful to his superiors. Liu Yi, I cleaned up the trash in your market. Is this how your men repay me? I admitted to striking first, but your man demanded I cut off my own hand. Breaking his arm is a fair trade. Liu Yi hesitated. I said I'd ensure you leave safely. Let him go. I scoffed at the wordplay. Liu Yi promised safety only until I left the market, leaving my fate thereafter unmentioned. I'll respect your word, Liu Yi, but if I'm followed, my gun won't be so merciful. Asterisk bang. Bang. Asterisk I fired twice, instantly shredding Liu Ye's hat in midair. The shots were so fast that many missed the movement, but Liu Yi felt the sudden chill on his head and knew exactly what happened. I calmly reloaded my rifle in front of the stunned crowd. I broke the rules, so I'll pay. Here is 100 yuan for medical expenses. I tossed the money onto Fox's face, my foot still pinning the man down. I've given you face and followed the rules, Liu Yi. Now, what about your man trying to maim me? Liu Yi was reeling. He knew my Mauser nagant required manual bolt action for every shot, yet the speed was nearly semi-automatic. I had aimed, fired, and cycled the bolt twice in under 2 seconds. One slight error would have ended Liu Ye's life. Liu Yi realized his own men were sluggish compared to me, as I treated them like fools. He knew if he turned hostile, he would be the first to die. In the high-stakes world of the black market, he was walking a tightrope. If policy shifted, he would be the first sacrificed. His bribes only bought temporary peace. The state's tacit permission for the black market was merely a transitional necessity during the planned economy era. People risked the pigeon market out of desperation, starvation, or lack of necessities, making it a vital, albeit illegal, exchange. It was a necessary evil to keep people alive. Yet, it remained illegal, leaving men like Liu Yi vulnerable to being purged at any moment. His men were mercenaries driven by profit. If he died, They would scramble for his assets rather than seek revenge. I could easily eliminate his few loyal henchmen before they could even react. The onlookers realized the danger. Lu Yi would likely take his humiliation out on them later. They were terrified by my audacity. I specifically targeted the hardest nut to crack, proving my dominance. I knew Lu Yi was cold-blooded and didn't care about his subordinates. The safety promise was a trap to lure me into an ambush outside. Lu Yi could easily frame a scapegoat if I died outside the market. By shooting the hat, I forced the selfish, survival-oriented Lu Yi to prioritize his own life over revenge. Lu Yi suspected I was a highly trained veteran or a king of soldiers. If he failed to kill me, the retaliation would be devastating and the lack of evidence would work against him. At his age, with wealth and comfort, Lu Yi wasn't about to gamble his life against a madman. What do you want? Lu Yi calmed himself, choosing to feign admiration to save face and potentially recruit a talent. This way, he appeared magnanimous rather than cowardly. A perfect resolution. I ignored the gesture and grinned. This Mosenagant is decent. Consider it compensation. Lu Yi was furious. The rifle was worth hundreds, and I wanted it after paying a measly 100 yuan. But he had to agree. If I left unarmed, I would never trust Lu Ye's word. The gun was a necessary loss. You followed the rules and given me face. My man offended you, so compensation is fair. I agree. Lu Yi spun the narrative to sound like a benevolent elder rather than a man terrified for his life. Good. We're even. Don't let me find you following me, or my gun will speak again. Lu Yi seethed at the parting threat, trapped by his own need to maintain his image. I released Fox and walked away. I passed the 4 men who had started the conflict. They had been harassing a woman for her life-saving money. In this era, speaking up against local bullies was dangerous for those without power or status. I wouldn't fight the entire era, but since I was masked and the opportunity arose, I couldn't stand by and let my conscience be burdened. I felt that while I wasn't legally obligated to intervene in the woman's plight, my conscience wouldn't allow me to stand by. Learning that the woman sold her only valuable clothes to pay for her granddaughter's medical treatment, I decided to act. Regardless of the era's social labels, I felt a duty to help a fellow descendant of Yin and Huang whenever possible. Snap. Snap. I approached the 4 men and, without a word, shattered their limbs with precise kicks. Their agonizing screams mingled with the crisp sound of breaking bones in the night air. The onlookers brought by Lu Yi and Fox broke into a cold sweat. They had seen violence before, but never with such cold, wordless efficiency. Don't blame me. Blame yourself for offending the wrong person. I ignored the theatrics, simply moving from one man to the next, breaking bones with mechanical precision. Lu Yi was furious. I had violated the black market's unspoken rules right in front of him, despite the settlement money already paid. The money was merely a face-saving gesture. If anyone could cause trouble just by paying, the black market would collapse. My business is done. Farewell, Lu Yi. I retreated with my rifle. Lu Yi slapped Fox for being held hostage, which had forced his hand. Lu Yi berated Fox, refusing to break his word and lose face by attacking me now that I was gone. Fox stood humiliated, his fists clenched. He had never been struck by Lu Yi before, and all because of that stranger. Lu Yi had always treated Fox as a trusted lieutenant to maintain his own authority. Today, however, everything changed because of me. Despite his burning resentment, Fox had to swallow his anger and obey Lu Ye's order to stand down. I stowed my rifle in my space, pulled out a pistol, and left. Who's there? I asked, shielding my face as a light shone on me. It was Huzi, who had been searching for me after hearing gunfire. I realized Huzi had hidden his bicycle to come find me alone. Find the bike and let's go. Public security will be here soon, I urged. Huzi knew the danger. Gunfire in the black market would inevitably draw the authorities, and the locals were notoriously vigilant. The sub-district office kept the masses well organized with regular ideological training. While meant to root out bad elements, this vigilance meant any report was taken seriously. Help me pull the bike out of the pit, Huzi said, pointing to a camouflaged hole. The pit was well hidden, making it a perfect spot to stash their bikes in the dark. They retrieved the bikes and quickly hit the road. Boss, are we really letting him go? The men asked Fox. They felt they had the numbers and firepower to hunt me down. It's useless, Fox replied. He's alone, mobile, and it's too dark to identify anyone. Forget it. Tell the brothers to clear out. The police are coming. Liu Yi had already left, and the black market was effectively shut down for the night. Brother Yu, what happened back there? Huzi asked as they traveled by moonlight, I keeping a watchful eye behind them. Just a black market dispute that got out of hand, I replied vaguely. I decided we wouldn't return home yet, opting to stay in the city to buy a sewing machine. Huzi was worried about their families, but I assured him I had prepared. They arrived at an inn, and I produced an introduction letter. Where did you get that? Huzi asked. I got it from Uncle Daqiang, obviously, I lied. The letter, stamped by the village committee, acted as a travel permit. The innkeeper accepted it as proof of their legitimate business in the city. In reality, I had forged the letter, using a genuine stamp I'd swiped earlier. I had used my space to sneak a blank sheet of paper under the stamp while Daqiang wasn't looking. Daqiang trusted his nephew, making the theft easy. Mimicking the handwriting was a trivial task for me. Since the village had no phone to verify the letter, the genuine stamp was all that mattered. My first time staying at an inn. This is great, Huzi marveled. They shared a room with a double bed, which was perfectly fine. Huzi went to fetch water for washing, excited by the experience. I had told my wife, Huang Sui, that I might be late and to sleep at the old courtyard. I hoped she wouldn't worry too much until morning. They would likely be back before anyone realized they were gone. Staying over wasn't just about the sewing machine. It was a tactical decision. I feared being tracked. The black market gang wasn't playing games, and my survival relied on my marksmanship and willingness to fight to the death. Had Liu Yi turned hostile, I would have been in grave danger against 60 armed men. Even with my skills, I knew to respect firearms. I could have taken half of them down, but I wouldn't have walked away unscathed. I gambled on Liu Ye's caution, proving that choices, not just abilities, determine success. Character dictates choices, and choices dictate the outcome. A coward with godly skills would still choose to retreat, proving that mindset is the true decider of fate. Like the great entrepreneurs of the future, success requires the grit to persist when others see only failure. Here's the hot water, Huzi said. After washing up, I handed him the sewing machine ticket and the remaining money. Huzi took the money and tickets without hesitation, stuffed them into his shirt, and immediately fell into a deep, snoring sleep. I had no choice but to endure the noise. I couldn't justify the high profile of renting another room. Huzi woke me at dawn, checking the time on my watch before urging me to get up. I, exhausted from a sleepless night, spent worrying about the black market tracking me, felt groggy. I reasoned that the only way to identify me would be to trace what I had purchased at the black market. My thousands of pounds of grain were safely in my space, leaving no trail for investigators to follow in nearby villages or towns. Since I wasn't buying for a group, investigators couldn't pinpoint a specific village, and individual cases of wealth were too common for the black market to bother investigating. Thus, tracing me through grain would be a dead end. While the ticket seller might identify me as the one who bought a sewing machine ticket, I doubted the man would betray me. My other purchases were also in the space, and even if they found the middle-aged woman I bought from, the name, Suyu, was too common to track. I doubted they could even find the woman again unless she returned to the black market. The black market wouldn't resort to extreme measures like torture just to find a random customer. It wasn't worth the risk of attracting public security. Brother Yu, why the days? Huzi asked, checking the watch. It was only 5:10 a.m. I want to buy the sewing machine early and head back. I haven't told my family, so I'm anxious, I lied. I inwardly scoffed at Huzi's anxiety, given his snoring, then told him to wash up for breakfast. Got it. Huzi went to fetch hot water from the inn's boiler. Once Huzi returned, the two left the small inn lobby. Ma'am, checking out. The landlady processed their checkout after checking their room key. I took back my deposit and asked Huzi what he wanted to eat. Huzi left the choice to me. The county town lacked decent restaurants. They soon heard a quiet hawker selling meat buns. I, with my heightened sense of smell, caught the scent immediately. Chive and pork buns. Want two? The hawker asked. Chives were rare in the planned economy era, usually only grown in private gardens. I smelled authentic, domestic pork, not wild boar. This was a rare find, given the high price of pork. Markets were strictly regulated, and obtaining such ingredients for sale was difficult. For Mao each, the hawker said. One is enough to fill you up. The buns were large and white, looking substantial. Is it all dough? I asked. I wouldn't cheat you. They're thin-skinned and full of meat. I'll take them all. The hawker was stunned. Illegal street vending was risky. Public security cracked down on vendors everywhere except near hospitals, where connections usually shielded them. Even so, mobile vendors had to be careful. They were a common sight, but always ready to vanish. Like the sunflower seed sellers on trains, they kept their operations low-key. This man carried his stock in a cloth bundle, ready to hide it under his coat at a moment's notice. Others carried only small amounts to avoid suspicion. Without catching them in the act of a transaction, public security had little grounds for arrest. You want all 24? The man asked, surprised. This would end his day's work instantly. I agreed, and the man handed over the bundle. Try them, they're delicious. I tasted one. It was indeed thin-skinned and packed with meat. Expensive, but high quality. At 4 Mao each, the total was 9 yuan and 6 Mao. It was pricey compared to standard buns, but the quality and meat content were unmatched. The dough was pure wheat, no cornmeal filler. Chives were rarely seen in markets, appearing only when communes had surplus. Availability was entirely random. I didn't mind the premium price for such quality. It was a satisfying, meat-heavy meal. Your skills are excellent. I paid 10 yuan, and the man quickly returned the change and hurried away. I tied the bundle to my bike, eating a bun as we walked. Buying enough for the trip back? I asked, confirming Huzi couldn't finish them alone. They stopped at a mutton soup shop for soup and pancakes. They enjoyed the soup, pancakes, and buns together. After we eat, we'll buy the sewing machine. Tell your family we stayed with a friend so they don't worry about the cost. Huzi nodded, trusting me completely. I chose a state-run store far from the black market to avoid Fifth Master's influence, prioritizing caution regarding my black market dealings. They woke at 5 a.m. and arrived at the distant store just as it opened, avoiding any unnecessary attention. I waited for a crowd to form before sending Huzi inside, my face partially obscured by a scarf. Huzi claimed he had a cold, which easily explained his attire to the staff. Following my instructions, they left immediately after the purchase. Huzi questioned why they were taking a longer, desolate route home. I chose the route for its visibility. The open, treeless terrain allowed me to spot any potential tails easily. Having acted boldly before, I was now hypervigilant to avoid the consequences of my previous risks. I urged Huzi to hurry, promising to help him assemble the sewing machine once home. Huzi's machine arrived in parts, requiring assembly of the frame and pedals. Buying the full set was cheaper than sourcing parts individually, though it required manual labor. They reached home by 8:20 a.m. Despite the detour, they were faster than expected, driven by the need to avoid being followed and to reassure their worried families. As expected, Huzi's mother and Huang Sui were waiting at the village entrance. Huzi's mother scolded them for staying out overnight without sending word. I stayed silent while Huzi looked sheepish. Huzi claimed they stayed with a friend in town after buying the machine late. I corroborated, adding that traveling at night with the machine was risky. Huzi's mother, unconvinced, gave them both a slap on the back. Their families shared a common ancestor within the 5 degrees of mourning. As a senior, Huzi's mother had the authority to discipline me. Her frustration with me stemmed partly from my recent neglect of my new wife, Huang Sui. I finally approached Huang Sui. I apologized for worrying her and suggested she rest while I handled the sewing machine. Huang Sui smiled, saying she had slept with the children and was fine. I promised to return after helping Huzi. I guided Huzi through the assembly process, as Huzi was inexperienced. Once finished, I left Huzi to rest before their planned hunting trip. I kept the black market rifle hidden but pulled out a high-quality, foreign-looking dress for my little sister. I returned home, where Huang Sui offered me tea. I accidentally burned my mouth, leading to a light-hearted moment. I gave her the dress for Su Jing, promising to find something for Yaya later to avoid jealousy. Huang Sui admired the delicate, star-patterned white dress. She remarked on the high-quality material, wondering if the seller had once been wealthy. I brushed off her curiosity. I told her to hide the dress to prevent the children from fighting over it. Huang Sui laughed at how easily the strong I was managed by the 2 girls. I told her to steam the pork buns I bought, splitting them between our home and the old courtyard. Huang Sui was shocked by the quality of the white flour. Such pure white flour was rare compared to their home-milled grain. I explained it came from the first flour mill and was pricey. Under pressure, I admitted they cost 4 mao each. Huang Sui was appalled by the cost, calling me wasteful. I knew it was expensive, but the quality of the ingredients made it a rare treat. I ended the conversation, noting our differing views on consumption. I met Huzi, who was ready with his rifle and bow. Huzi hurried me away from the village to avoid his mother's interference. Huzi explained his mother wanted him to visit Sanshuiwan Village to discuss marriage plans. Huzi felt too shy and wanted his father to accompany him. I understood. At 18, Huzi was too timid to face his future in-laws alone. I teased him for his cowardice as we headed out, guided by the hawks and the dog, Haizi. I decided to follow the 3 young eagles to find prey. I scanned the surroundings intently. Huzi asked what I was looking for. I revealed I was looking for medicinal herbs, having borrowed books from Liu Kai to start a side business. I noted that many hunters supplemented their income by foraging. I confirmed I was searching for herbs while we walked. Huzi asked to be taught which herbs were valuable. I was unsurprised by Huzi's desire to follow my lead. I listed several local herbs: ginseng, lingji, deer antler, and others. I explained that even common herbs could be dried and sold for profit. Huzi was stunned that I had already memorized the names and appearances of these herbs. I was used to Huzi's dramatic reactions. I told Huzi to check the marked books at Li Yotsai's house to learn the basics. I had mastered the knowledge, though I encouraged Huzi to focus on the essentials. Huzi agreed to visit Liu Kai later. I spotted several herbs along the way but ignored them, as they were too cheap to be worth the effort. Wait, a rabbit. I stopped Huzi, drew my bow, and released an arrow. Whoosh! The arrow pierced the air, pinning the rabbit to the ground. I quickly retrieved my arrow. Damn, you've started. I need to find a target too. The mountains were rich in game, though hunters often pushed the animals deeper into the woods. Huzi soon bagged a pheasant. Your gunfire scared the rest away. I'll have to move further. Suddenly, the 3 gerfalcons screeched, signaling they had spotted prey. Let's go check it out. The gerfalcons only signaled for significant prey. They handled small game like rabbits themselves. They sprinted toward the signal. Are we there yet? This feels endless. Stop complaining. Haizi is already there. If we don't hurry, he might get reckless. I patted Huzi's shoulder and leaped over the brush with ease. I suddenly stopped, causing Huzi to bump into me. I looked back, distracted. I had recently gained the photographic memory skill. Though active, it subtly enhanced my general recall. During their run, I had caught a glimpse of a medicinal herb. What is it, Yuji? I focused, retraced my steps, and stopped before a large tree. Ganoderma applanatum? Isn't that just a big mushroom? Huzi was confused. It looked like a common tree fungus. It's a medicinal herb. It's worth about 20 yuan a pound. Take it to Liu Kai. It'll help when you need to borrow books. I didn't pick it, as it was too young to be valuable. Unbeknownst to me, skipping this harvest meant missing a chance to trigger a skill. I moved on. Huzi, unsure how to harvest it, cut the bark away to ensure he got the roots. He packed the fungus and hurried to catch up. Yuji. Shoo. Huzi caught up to find me hiding behind a tree, watching Haizi, who lay in wait. Haizi looked at me, impatient for the hunt to begin. Huzi peeked out and saw a massive beast. Yuji, is that? A moose. Shoulder height 1.7 meters, 2-ton weight. Wonder how the meat tastes. At nearly a ton, it was a giant. A kick from one could be fatal. Should we skip it? If we don't kill it, we're dead. Moose were herbivores, but dangerous if provoked. To the moose, they were just tiny, fragile nuisances. In some places, they were used like draft animals. Skip it. No way. That's a lot of meat. But how do we haul it out? It's too heavy. Huzi knew the weight was immense. Don't worry about the transport. I'm worried that shooting will scare off the others. Moose are herd animals, usually moving in groups of 7 to 10. They only saw 3, but the gunfire would surely scatter the rest. Want to hunt them all? I'll scout for others. Huzi knew I could handle the 3, and he wanted to find his own. I checked the sky. The gerfalcons were circling only these 3. No need. The birds haven't found anything else. Take one, I'll take the other 2. Deal. I believed in clear boundaries. The birds found the prey, so I claimed the lion's share. You sure? What if I miss and let one escape? I brought you out. I won't let you go home empty-handed. Being clear about the split was better for their friendship than empty promises. Fine, I'll take the smallest one. Even the smallest was massive. They'd need help moving it regardless. Huzi understood the rules. My generosity with the gun didn't entitle him to free handouts. Clear accounts prevented resentment. Human nature is fickle. Following the hunter's code of finders keepers or shared spoils was the safest path. Ready? On 3. I didn't need to aim, but Huzi did. The target was 70 meters away. They couldn't get closer without risking exposure. The moose were alert, especially with the gerfalcons circling above. 3, 2, 1, bang. I fired twice, hitting the heads of 2 moose. Huzi hit his target, but it didn't fall, so I fired a finishing shot. Good progress. Hitting a target at 70 meters isn't bad. Huzi knew he'd be embarrassed if he missed such a huge target. Thanks for the backup, UG. Woof. Woof. Huzi rushed toward the fallen prey. Huzi followed, while I checked my system. Host. Age. 19. Physique. 30. Strength. 50. Speed. 28. Stamina. 36. Storage. 9 cubic meters space. Skills. Photographic memory. Superhuman strength. Fishing LV3+. Archery limit break LV1. Scouting limit break LV1. Animal taming LV7+. Martial arts limit break LV1. Butchery LV7+. Rock climbing LV7+. Marksmanship LV9. Carpentry LV5. Parkour LV8. Skill points 63. These points include recent hunts, with the 3 moose contributing about 20 points. I was content. Even as points become harder to earn, steady progress remains. Killing fish still yields points, proving the system hasn't stagnated. UG, that's insane. How did you see I didn't hit the vitals from 70 meters away? I checked the carcass. Huzi had hit the base of the neck, explaining why the moose struggled to collapse. My follow-up shot had pierced the eye, a precision shot clearly not Huzi's doing. Forget it. Let's focus on getting the prey back. Huzi tried to drag his moose, but it wouldn't budge. Even the smallest moose weighed 800 to 900 pounds. Huzi couldn't move it an inch. It's too heavy. Only you can handle this, UG. Huzi was no longer surprised by my strength. Familiarity had normalized my feats. What once seemed impossible now felt routine. It was like watching someone age. Gradual changes go unnoticed until a long separation reveals the difference. Huzi had simply adapted to my superhuman nature. While others like Huang Shan were physically imposing and could lift 500-pound traps, they weren't truly superhuman. True superhuman strength is defined by how far one exceeds their natural limits, not just the weight lifted. A child lifting 100 pounds is a feat. A 20-year-old doing the same is nothing. Huzi likely viewed me as having a genetic breakthrough. Still, I kept my limit around 1,000 pounds to avoid drawing unwanted attention from the commune. Even with 2,000-pound moose, I would hide my true power. Forget carrying them. We need another way. I began field dressing the moose, feeding the heart and liver to Huzi and the raptors. One carcass provided enough to sate Huzi and the gerfalcon. The heart was so massive it required 2 hands to hold. Huzi was stuffed. My 2 moose totaled 4,000 pounds, too heavy to carry down the mountain, even with my skill. My superhuman strength had a trade-off. The heavier the load, the shorter the duration I could sustain it. I'm stumped. What do we do? Huzi asked. Give me the hatchet and wait here, I replied. I vanished into the woods with the hatchet. UG, where are you going? Just watch and don't ask. I disappeared, and soon the sound of chopping echoed. I returned 4 times, hauling arm-thick logs. We're building sleds, I explained. They had brought ropes specifically for securing prey. Huzi followed my instructions without question. I planned to drag the carcasses using makeshift sleds. Dragging was feasible, but required clearing a path through the dense undergrowth. The forest was thick. They had to clear obstacles every 10 meters. Tie it tight. Don't skimp on the rope, I ordered. I'm on it, Huzi promised. Huzi worked diligently, matching my effort. They spent 20 minutes working, fending off a few wolves along the way. Done. But can we really drag these? Huzi wondered. Dragging is easier than carrying, but weight remains a factor. Like a heavy truck, even with wheels, it's only easier relative to the load. I'm here, aren't I? If I can't lift a ton, I can certainly drag it. They began the relay. Drag one moose, return for the next. Huzi's moose was lighter, but I helped him whenever he struggled. Progress was glacial, 1 kilometer in an hour. I'm spent. I need a break, Huzi gasped. Dragging 900 pounds for a kilometer had pushed Huzi to his limit. I could have dragged my load easily, but I paced myself to match Huzi's exhaustion. The constant back and forth was physically taxing even for me. Go back and get help. Bring your father, my brother, Brother Daong, Su Xiaobin, and Su Jin. More hands make light work. Huzi collapsed, gasping for air for 10 minutes. His persistence was driven by sheer willpower and the refusal to be a burden. Huzi was simple but principled. He had worked hard to match my marksmanship, proving his dedication. I want to be a medicinal herb collector, and Huzi insists on learning too. Huzi refuses to be a burden. He wants to contribute rather than just take handouts. I see through this but play it cool, patting Huzi's shoulder. Rest up, then go call for help. I'll keep moving the prey. I might even be a few kilometers ahead by the time you return. All right. Be careful. Huzi leaves with his gun. I remain, lighting a cigarette while Huzi rests and the gerfalcon circles above. Once Huzi is out of sight, I plan to store my moose in my space and move forward a kilometer, careful not to arouse suspicion. To leave a trail, I only store my own moose, dragging Huzi's prey manually so the ground shows clear drag marks. Huzi trusts me, but I know that if others question my unnatural strength later, Huzi might start connecting the dots and grow suspicious. Like a ghost who doesn't realize they are dead until told, Huzi has adapted to my strength, but he isn't mindless. External doubt could trigger a realization of how miraculous these events truly are. If people start whispering that my sudden growth in strength is supernatural or demonic, Huzi might start to believe it. In the 1970s, rural folk often defaulted to superstition when faced with the unexplainable, as their education lacked scientific grounding. Even with anti-superstition campaigns, deep-seated beliefs persist when people lack the scientific framework to explain natural phenomena. Only with proper cognitive development can one replace superstition with logic, like understanding ghost fires are just chemical reactions from bones. It's just ahead. Hurry, or we won't get it down before dark. Huzi returns with his father, Su Dihai, his younger brother, his eldest brother, Su Jin, and Su Daong. Damn, Yuji, you're a beast. You really dragged it a kilometer yourself. Huzi is stunned to see the clear drag marks leading to where I am waiting. I stand up as they arrive and greet Huzi's father, Uncle Dihai. I use the formal address to show respect in front of the group. You two boys are something else, taking down such a monster in no time. Dihai warns me. Huzi says you gave him your kill. Don't do that again. You're a married man now. Look after your own family first. Dihai speaks from the heart, fearing future domestic strife between me and Huang Sui over shared resources. I appreciate the advice, noting that even my own father never cared enough to offer such guidance. It's fine, uncle. The mountain code says finders keepers, but for big game, it's best to keep accounts clear. I won't let myself be shortchanged. Dihai insists, we're kin. Stick to the rules. Whoever finds or kills it, keeps it. Don't let a bit of meat cause a rift between our families. Huzi reflects on his father's words, realizing he had been taking my generosity for granted. He wonders if his own future wife would be as understanding as Huang Sui, or if this dynamic would eventually cause resentment. I understand, uncle. Let's get these monsters back. The group stares at the massive moose, wondering how to transport them. I refuse to take them into the village, knowing it would only invite demands for free meat. We'll take them to the mountain foot and try to hire a cart to sell them in the county town. A donkey cart can't handle the rough, muddy terrain with such heavy loads. I'll help Huzi. You lot go help me, Dihai orders. As deputy militia captain, Dihai is strong. He and his eldest son manage to drag the 900 gene moose. My 4,000 gene moose is too heavy for the current stretcher, so the others head into the woods to cut timber for a better one. Carrying a wood-chopping knife is standard practice for clearing paths through thorny brush. They have enough tools for everyone to help. I stay behind to rest while the others work. No one questions me, assuming I'm exhausted from my solo effort. Soon, they return with wood and build a sturdy stretcher for the second moose. Sheng, Xiaobin, Su Jin, and Daong attempt to pull the 2,000 jin moose. Each is pulling 500 jin. The wood barely holds under the string. Huff, huff, this is impossible. We're exhausted after just a few meters. Third brother, how on earth did you drag this here alone? Everyone stares at me, their curiosity piqued by the sheer impossibility of my feat. I play it off. I'm just strong. Tie another rope. I'll help. I easily move my own moose to join them, my strength already legendary in the village. Yet, experiencing the weight firsthand, the others realize the true scale of the gap between them. Even the tall, sturdy men like Sheng and Daong are gasping for air after only a few steps. The younger boys, Xiaobin and Su Jin, are barely making a dent in the weight. Sheng worries I will collapse, but I insist. If I can't do it, you definitely can't. I take the rope and pull with ease. With me leading, the others find the load significantly lighter. Dihai and Huzi follow, struggling with their own load. Huzi finally realizes that his previous success was entirely due to my hidden help. They move in short bursts, resting frequently, as I maintain a pace that doesn't look too suspicious. The others are grateful for my help, realizing they would be completely stuck without me. Exhausted after the trek, the group collapsed at the mountain's base. I followed suit to avoid appearing suspicious. Uncle Dihai, have a smoke. I handed over a peony cigarette, lit it for him, and tossed the rest of the pack to my brother, Su Sheng. Su Sheng shared one with Su Daong, who accepted despite not usually smoking, feeling the fatigue of the day. I chatted with Su Dihai while smoking. Where will you store the game tonight? Don't worry, I have a secure spot. But I'll need your help with the donkey cart tomorrow. Since their village lacked a cart, they had to borrow one from Mauser. Borrowing collective property required careful navigation. The Mauser cart was collective property, unrelated to their own Sanshuiwan Village. Ma Sanshuiwan's approval was essential, and he would likely need the brigade's consensus to avoid accountability for lending out collective assets. It was a difficult request, but their own donkey couldn't haul the 5,000 pounds of game. I planned to use the donkey as a cover, secretly providing the necessary strength myself. The donkey remained blissfully unaware of its role as a human-powered shield. Ma Sanshuiwan is a wily old fox. He won't risk his position for something uncertain. I agreed. If the village head knew our true intent, the plan would fail. If the cart is impossible, we'll just drag it to the city ourselves. Huzi suggested dragging the load, which, while harder than a cart, was more feasible than carrying it. If we use the donkey to assist and have enough men, we can make it to the city. I nodded. With 5 men and the donkey, the 5,000-pound load would seem plausible to onlookers. Agreed. I'll get my brothers-in-law to help tomorrow. With the 6 of us, we'll manage. It's settled. After the others left, I stored the game in my space, having convinced them I didn't need further help. I informed the old party secretary about borrowing the cart. The secretary, accustomed to my hunting success and occasional gifts of offal, simply advised me to be careful. I returned home and told my wife, Huang Sui, I'm heading to the city tomorrow to sell game. I need your brother's help. Are you coming to your parents' place? Sui didn't question the load size. She trusted her husband's legendary hunting instincts and sixth sense. She knew her husband was capable, so she wasn't surprised by the scale of the haul. I've only just married in. I shouldn't return to my parents' home so soon. I'll go in a few days. She worried about gossip, being seen as lazy or avoiding chores, and didn't want to invite unfair comparisons. I didn't press, secretly happy to have her home. In this era, evenings were long and devoid of entertainment. Fine, go to the old courtyard for dinner tonight. I'll pick you up later. On my way, I retrieved 10 pounds of sicked deer meat from my space. This was my personal stash, not for sale. As a new son-in-law, I couldn't arrive empty-handed. Meat was a generous gift in these times. Dad, Mom, are you home? Huang Hongxing greeted me. Oh, Suyu? Where's Sui? I explained that she was staying behind, and Hongxing didn't mind. Hongxing accepted the deer meat with polite, perfunctory protests, which I ignored. Inside, I explained my need for Huang Shan and Huang Hai. Hongxing was home alone, as the others were working the fields. Hongxing agreed on his son's behalf. I declined an invitation to dinner and left. At dawn, I returned to the mountain, retrieved the game, and gutted the moose, setting aside the organs. I brought the offal to the old courtyard, then rallied Huzi, Su Daong, and the village cart. Su Sheng, Su Daong, and the Huang brothers arrived shortly after. Secure the ropes. We'll use them to pull. They carefully balanced the load to ensure the donkey wasn't lifted or crushed by the 5,000-pound weight. Huzi, grab a basin. Take the organs home for your family. The restaurants won't want them. Oh, I almost forgot. Will they have spoiled overnight? I lied. They're fresh. Just hurry up. Huzi returned with a large laundry basin. I expertly gutted the moose, leaving the skin on for the buyers to verify freshness. All done. Take them home. I finished processing the game quickly. Brother-in-law, you've struck gold. I've never even seen a moose before. The deep mountains were vast and treacherous. Finding such game was a rare stroke of luck. Just good fortune, I replied. The brothers looked at the small cart. This won't fit everything, will it? Leave it to me, I said. With surgical precision, I used my knife to dismantle the moose legs at the joints. The others watched in awe as I efficiently broke down the carcasses. Put the 12 legs in the cart, then stack the torsos on top and lash them down. By removing the long legs, the bulky torsos fit perfectly on the cart. The tires sagged, but I pumped them up just enough to hold the weight without bursting.